Welcome to the Guerrilla Medic Podcast. I'm your host and fellow Guerrilla Medic, Juan Carlos. Everything in this podcast is purely my opinion. None of this should be taken as legal medical advice. If you have access to professional medical services, you should go through them first. This podcast is for the Guerrilla Medics out there. Not enough supplies, not enough people, not enough training. Doing what you can in less than ideal circumstances. We're just trying to give you boys a little bit more of that know-how. Alright fellas, let's get out there and go do the Lord's work. All right, gents, welcome back to the show. As always, I am your host, Juan Carlos. It's been a minute, guys. It's been a minute since I put anything out. For those of you that are regular listeners, I do apologize for that. I know when I'm listening to a podcast that I like and they don't put anything out for a while, it's kind of annoying. But summer here is fairly short, and we try to get out and take advantage as much of it as possible before we're plunged back into the 8 or 9 months of cold and darkness. So just been out doing as much as we can, family, training, some leisure stuff, just trying to enjoy life as much as possible. So that's kind of where I've been since we've been off. I think we've done a whole lot of trainings. One of them that I taught would be the clinician up north in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, with Defensive Action Center would be the clinician, our clinical skills class. We did that. I'll touch on that in a little bit, but it was a pretty full house. Big shout out to everyone that came out, made it happen, and got out there, and we got some pretty good training in there. I'd wanted to make this one a little bit more in depth, a little bit special for you guys, since it's been a minute. I wanted to make sure I give you good quality content. I'm not a big fan of just putting out short episodes here and there. Guys do it, and it works out great for them, and nothing wrong with it. I'm kind of from the background of speak when you've got something intelligent to say. Don't just talk for the sake of talking. So that's what I try to do here. Again, this has always been a passion project. I don't get any money for this. I don't get paid. I do this because I just want to get some stuff out for y'all. So today we're going to do the overarching topic is going to be getting the new guy squared away. Like I said, we're doing a lot of training by ourselves, by myself, Orion Training Group, Defensive Action Center, and we start to see a lot of patterns emerging, and wanted to try and address some of those. A lot of guys try to get into this. Defensive Action Center, when I can, I try to make it up there to do their reps nights. It's like a predetermined topic, whether it's CQB, night vision, vehicle reps, fighting in and around vehicles, medical, whatever it is. I try to make it up there as much as I can. And a lot of dudes show up for the first time, and that's awesome for them. Everybody's got to take a first step at some point. But when you show up and, a bunch of dudes are completely kitted out head to toe for whatever we're doing, and you're like, holy shit, I got blue jeans and a PSA rifle. This is a huge barrier to entry. I'm not going to do this anymore. That's kind of what I want to address today with Milk, and some of the things that we've seen, ways to help guide newer guys, making smart decisions with the gear they're getting. I know most guys have totes filled with gear that they've acquired over the years that they, you kind of see their progression in their journey into this, from usually like a Condor chest rig and AR-500 steel plates with a PSA or an M&P 15 Sport or something, all the way, then you end up wherever your end goal is, whether it's Cries, Geissele triggers, Noveske rifles, whatever it is. So we wanted to kind of touch on that today for you guys, tell you through experience in doing this, seeing a lot of guys do it. Some do it successfully, some do it unsuccessfully. Try to break down some of those barriers for you guys and give our opinion on where to put your focus first. And then we're going to kind of go through some of the mistakes that we've made, gear purchases that have turned out to be busts, some that are surprises. You know, you get this thing, you don't have much hope in it, and it turns out to be an awesome thing. So between us and some of our crew, there's been a lot of purchases made, and a lot of regret, and a lot of good things that have come out of it. So hopefully that narrows it down a bit for you guys. But in getting ready for this on Instagram, at the Guerrilla Medic on Instagram and Facebook, I threw out a question, getting the new guy squared away, what questions y'all got. And I got a lot of really good answers. Or not answers, but questions. So I'll go through some of those. Milk's a pretty busy guy, and I want to be respectful of his time. And I'm very appreciative that he kind of comes on here and bullshits with me. So with that in mind, I'm going to answer some of these that are more directed towards me, and we'll get going. The first one that kind of jumped out at me makes me feel like I didn't do a very good job of defining the role. So the question is, what makes someone a guerrilla medic? Basically, how is it different than normal EMS? I think probably the most impactful thing I ever learned in college, and there weren't a whole lot of impactful things, was that words have meaning, right? Words have power. And when you pick words, especially if it's something that you're going to try and build off of, for me would be the guerrilla medic, is do it intentionally. So I could have said the austere medic, I could have said I could have said a million different things, but I chose guerrilla medic for a reason. When we look up the definition of guerrilla, 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 or however they say it down south, what I'm focusing on here is the part of the Oxford definition of guerrilla as referring to actions or activities performed in an impromptu way, often without authorization. That's what I shoot for with the guerrilla medic. Mostly doing the best you can with what you have, where you're at, kind of to rip off Viking preparedness with that line. But there have been a few very pivotal moments in my 12, 13-year career in medicine that have kind of led me to this conclusion. And with this, I see a lot of things that, gatekeeping, the way that healthcare handled the last 3 years with the flu that shall not be named. And I know I've touched on it before, but we had I was working at an urgent care, and we had bigwigs come on site, executive level guys, and they started asking the staff, how would you feel if we denied healthcare services to people who don't get their jab? And some people were like, oh, I think that's a great idea, dirty unvaccinated, all that stuff. And I just kind of shut my mouth, and I was like, I said it in the most professional terms I could. We're here to care for people, regardless of decisions. We care for drug addicts. We care for, I've cared for murderers, rapists, everything. That's our job. And that's kind of the calling in healthcare. And if you don't have that and you just treat it as a job, go do something else, man. Like, I know a lot of people that just they seem to be drawn to imaging, like rad techs, CT, ultrasound, whatever. It's just a job. Punch in, punch out. When you go and you look at nurses, physicians, PAs, NPs, they seem, in my opinion at least, to be more bought in on the concept of the patient and caring for the patient. So, getting back to that, after the executive team had left, I went to a supply room, and I was looking for something, and there were a couple of PAs. I think there was a nurse and an X-ray tech, and they were talking amongst themselves kind of in hushed tones, and that kind of perks my ears up. Like, oh, what are you guys trying to be quiet for? And they kind of knew where I stood on a lot of things, and they brought me into the conversation, and they're like, hey, if they do cut off services for, those people that aren't going to comply, how do we care for them? And I'm like, well, what do you mean? And they're like, well, how do we find locations for them? Do we treat them out of our garage, out of our basements? How do we get supplies? How do we order testing? How do we do imaging? How does this, we're trying to figure out how this works. And that was probably one of the most prideful moments of working with incredible people that I've ever had. Is that was the origins of guerrilla medicine in the United States that I never in a million years thought I would actually see. A lot of this is, a lot of people take the guerrilla term and they think Red Dawn or, Chinese paratroopers, maybe with without rule of law kind of scenarios. And this was happening right in front of my eyes. Guerrilla medicine. So that's where I kind of came up with the term. They're doing this, they're doing what is right by them, by their family, by their God, and doing what is right and caring for people. So that's kind of why I chose the name of the Guerrilla Medic. Is we're going to do what's right with or without authorization. Right? Titles don't define how you should treat people. And I've seen that a lot. I've seen, some of the best nurses I've ever worked with go up to new residents and tell them, hey, your patient over here is about to code. And they're like, well, I'm the doctor. You're the nurse. I'll tell you when they're about to code. And they're like, all right, well, your patient just flatlined, so congratulations. And then usually one of the senior attendings would come by and just completely rip that resident apart. And that's kind of where I started to see a title doesn't necessarily equal competence, just like a degree doesn't equal intelligence, right? Some of the smartest people I've ever met didn't even go to high school, while some of the dumbest people I've met have, multiple doctorates. It's, we're trying to do the best we can, and I'm trying to educate as wide of an audience as I can, regardless of your title. Like, I don't always expect healthcare professionals to turn into this. I'm very intentional with my class, The Clinician, and teaching, clinical skills, that this is not intended for healthcare individuals. This is intended for people who have never touched a patient. Right? You should have a firm mastery of these skills if you are a nurse or a PA or whatever. And I appreciate, I've had a couple of providers and nurses reach out and be like, hey, I'd love to take your class. And I'm like, hey, I really appreciate the support. You're more than welcome to take it. It's going to be very mundane for you. Like, this is me taking a guy off the street, teaching him, a basic patient assessment, vitals, how to draw up meds, how to use your resources, how to write a SOAP note, basic wound closure, things like that. Things that you should have a mastery of. So that's kind of where I got the term Guerrilla Medic from. That's why I use it. It has nothing to do with medicine in the field. We'll run it out of a garage. We'll run it out in the field. Sometimes you may end up running it out of a hospital. Right? Doing what is right with or without the authorization. Taking as best care of patients as possible. I know there was a big thing with a certain horse dewormer that is ironically one of the safest medications in the world. And I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, it is actually required to be in the formulary if you were to be an established pharmacy. Like, you must have this medication. Right? It's safer than ibuprofen or Tylenol. And I was working at a different urgent care at that time. And when people were coming in asking for it for a certain upper respiratory infection, the physicians had been told that if you prescribe this medicine, you will be terminated. Right? And there were certain rules that were bent, certain things that were done to take care of the patients in the best way that they could. And that really came down to knowing your community, knowing people in different positions of healthcare, and just doing what is right for the patient with or without that authorization. So that was, as everything falls on me, that's why I came up with that term. It has nothing to do with EMS. It's more of, we're going to do what's right with what we have, where we're at, regardless of your title, credentials, anything like that. Getting into another one, practical practicing ideas in a woofer class or wilderness first responder. We did scenarios to apply what we had been learning. That's where, as the most medically trained person in your group, to be honest with you, it's a little rough with training, at least for you. You're going to be running those trainings. When I want to do medical training as a student for myself, I usually have to bring in someone else to do a training. I'm usually the one that is running the training and teaching my guys. I'm fortunate enough to have some pretty switched on dudes that can run me through scenarios as well. But until you can build up your guys, you're probably going to be the one running the scenarios. So you're going to be giving them, a patient casualty card or whatever. What I'll do is I'll take just a regular Word document and I'll kind of type out whatever the scenario I want it to be. 54-year-old male with, GSW to the left upper chest, is A&O times 4 or whatever I want it to be. Then I'll laminate it and I'll usually stick it under their shirt or the patient or the victim's shirt. And whenever my guys go in there and they start doing their blood sweeps and they start going up there, then they find the casualty card, wherever it may be. Sometimes you may just throw it on top of the guy and then they walk in and then this is their scenario. What you find is on the casualty card. We did that for the training event we did a couple months ago, SUSC, the Small Unit Skills Challenge with Defensive Action Center. And when I gave them the eviscerated bowel, that's pretty much what they went into. They rolled the dude over. They saw the link sausage and fake blood and chili and stuff, and then they had a casualty card. And this is what you get. So as the most medically trained guy in your group, it's going to be a little rough for you until you can get that figured out. But you're going to be the one running scenarios. Let's see what else we got here. Wanting to talk about Bill Rapier's modern Minuteman standards and add levels of medical training. I think that's a good idea. I didn't know who this guy was, so I had to look him up today. I'm not very big in the training world. Guys will go out and spend thousands upon thousands of dollars taking a Rifle 1 class over and over, Rifle 1, then Rifle 2. And, I'm pretty confident in my skills with firearm, but I don't think I have a 100% mastery on level 1. Like, if I cannot do it completely perfect, in my mind, I have no business taking the next level class. So that's kind of why I fall off with training. I've done plenty of it, but at the end of the day, it's pretty much I know what I need to work on. What has to happen now is thousands upon thousands upon thousands of reps and rounds. So I get more value out of me and the boys going out to the range, coming up with a plan, running the plan, and kind of tracking my development that way, than by just going out, paying money to a dude who can correct maybe one thing when I already know generally what I need to work on. That's kind of part of that Dunning-Kruger effect, right? Like, you initially start doing something and then it's experience versus competence. Like, your experience is low, you start progressing a little bit, you're like, oh, I've got a handle on this, and usually there's some kind of like catastrophic event, like you really fuck something up bad, for you to realize how little you actually know. You crash back down, and then you slowly but gradually progress. So I've already hit that with firearms training for myself. So I'm on the slow, gradual progression of of my whole journey with that. But we'll get into it later with Milk on some training. You should definitely get training, but after you've pretty much gotten a solid foundation, you need to figure out what you need to work on, and you need to do that yourself. If there's a certain task or skill that you're really lacking in, then, maybe seeking out professional instruction on that would be great. But until you've put in the thousands upon thousands of reps, hours, rounds, I'm not a big fan of just going out and taking another rifle class. That is my long-winded explanation on why I didn't know who Bill Rapier was. But I did look into it. So he's got the different levels of, like bare minimum situational awareness, a pistol, to, a Minuteman who can go on a walk for X miles with X pounds. So it's kind of like a gradual progression of becoming this, I think it was like Jedi Master Minuteman or something like that. Like the highest level of the Minuteman concept. I think that's great for medicine. Off the top of my head, if you are coming into this and you know absolutely nothing, I would start with something like a Stop the Bleed class and a CPR class. You're much more likely to use those kind of things than coming out to something like the clinician, for example. I'm going to give you those skills so that you can be able to take care of your family at home as best you can within reasonable limits. But you're much more likely to do CPR or come across a car wreck than you are, trying to figure out antibiotic therapies for, upper respiratory infections or, suturing, things like that. So I'd say bare bones, Stop the Bleed, and a CPR class. Then kind of your mid-level, you would get into kind of wet classes, TCCC concepts, and maybe some wilderness first responder. I think those are both awesome classes to take. And then third would be kind of your pinnacle classes would be prolonged casualty care, austere, kind of prolonged austere environment care. And that's you're starting to push into some kind of professional at that point. You can take an EMS class or an EMT class at a community college. I think they're like 3 months long or a semester long, and that'll give you a pretty solid foundation. But if you're doing EMS in a large city, unless you're on a fire department, at least in this area at least, fire departments do most of the medicine, and private EMS will just transport once they're done. So if you want to take an EMT class, I'd recommend it. That's kind of where I got my start in this, and I learned a lot of new stuff. Kind of came into it as an afterthought. I needed some elective credit for the degree I was working on at the time, and I had a family member who's, an attending physician at a big level 1 trauma center down south. And he's like, hey, why don't you take this? Because at the time I thought law enforcement was the route I wanted to go. And he's like, this is over 10 years ago. And back then, most cops didn't carry any medical stuff. And he's like, hey, if you want to be a cop, most cops just show up and sit on their hands while they wait for EMS. So it might make you look good in the application process. And that's kind of why I went through the EMT program. But so CPR, Stop the Bleed. Then that mid-level would be like a TCCC, wilderness first responder kind of class, and then finishing up with something like a prolonged casualty care, austere care, where you're having to manage a patient for a while. And I think the last question that I'll touch on before I kind of bring Milk on here in a bit would be this one. What made you start in the medical field? So I was probably 18, 19 at the time, and I was doing my undergrad stuff. And I remember coming home one day, way back in the day. I was living with mom and pop, and I was coming through, turned off a busy road onto kind of this huge subdivision where their house was at, and I was driving down the road, and I saw this dude on the side of the road, and he was just bleeding profusely. I think from the head, if I remember right. But he kind of reached out to put his hands on the hood of my car, and I was a kid, and I just kind of like pulled the car away and then went and turned it around like a block and then kind of pointed it down at this dude who was just kind of stumbling around. And I called 911, and they're like, okay, well, where are you? And I was like, I have no fucking idea. I just tracked my cell phone. And so I had zero situational awareness. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know what the fuck to do for this guy. I didn't have anything to do anything. I had never even done a CPR class at that point. And so I kind of pulled up, and as I pulled up, these dudes in this white van pulled up and threw the door open, and like one or two of them got out and was talking to the guy, and they're like, oh no, it's fine, he's with us, don't call the cops. And I'm pretty sure I witnessed an abduction. So I kind of called 911 again, and was like, hey, this is what I just saw, and yeah, they left. I'm like, okay, well, did you get a plate number? I was like, I didn't think about that. So after I hung up the phone, I just kind of sat there for like 10 minutes, just feeling completely and utterly useless. Like, I felt so incompetent. I just felt like a complete piece of shit. So it was kind of in that moment when I decided, like, I never want to feel this way again. I need to grow up, and I need to figure some shit out. So that was around the time that I had that call with my uncle about doing an EMT program. And I'm like, well, honestly, that's fucking perfect. Like, I'll learn some stuff. And I remember going through that, and even the most basic of terms, like hypertension for high blood pressure, right? I had no idea what that was. I didn't know shit about medicine. I knew zilch. Like, as green could be. And took that program, and then at the time, I think there was hardly anyone on YouTube doing anything about guns, like gunfighting, like learning how to actually carry a gun and stuff. And I remember finding like fucking Nut and Fancy, Such, and I think it was like James Yeager at the time, and those were the only ones that were like really big. And yeah, I just started watching that. And so as soon as maybe I was 20 at the time, 19 or 20, because I remember a few months later when I turned 21 on my birthday, I went out and bought a Ruger LCP, like the original, the OG 6-round Ruger LCP, and I was like, this is it. I'm good to go. And I remember a dude in the gun store like said, yeah, I carry a Glock 19 in my pants. And I was like, holy shit, that thing is so big. Like, how the fuck do you carry that? And now it's ironic. Like, I carry like a 17 with an X300 on it. And I'm like, yeah, this is normal. Like, I don't mind this at all. And I remember, getting that LCP and carrying it at my 4 or 5 o'clock, because that's what James Yeager said to do. And feeling like there was a spotlight on me everywhere I went with my first little gun. And actually, that's not true. That's the first gun I ever bought. I had kind of prolonged borrowed a Kimber 1911 from my fucking dad. And I just Mexi carried that thing and just shoved it in my pants. Empty chamber and full mag with ball ammo, and I would just carry that around in my fucking pants, Mexi style, no holster. And that was kind of my first intro to carrying a gun. And then I got an LCP because I was like, this thing is fucking enormous. I don't know how people do this. So that was kind of how I got started in medicine and kind of into guns. And I think that a lot of people, I say this because I think a lot of people can relate. I hear a lot of dudes they just get some wild gun as their first gun. And that's what we're going to kind of try to dispel today. So, I mean, I think I bought an LCP, then I bought an M&P 9C, like the original one. That was like halfway between a Glock 19 and a Glock 26 at the time. So I was like, I'll just buy one gun and then use a mag extender and basically make it a Glock 19, which it sort of was, but it didn't do either very well. I've still got that gun somewhere. But yeah, so that's kind of what we're doing with this episode, is teaching you what we've done and some mistakes to avoid and hopefully save you some money in the long run. Like, you'll probably spend money if you're actually going to do this, but hopefully save some money on just random shit and learn from our lessons. But that's kind of how I got started in medicine, just feeling completely and utterly useless and actually doing something about it and rectifying something about it. And I remember after I finished that EMT program, I was, looking back on it, I still had no fucking idea what I was doing. But at least one of the instructors was a battalion fire chief for a local department, and he was the senior chief that I ended up reporting to in the Navy. And I enlisted in the Navy as a hospital corpsman because of that guy. He had awesome stories, and I was like, before I get married, settle down and whatnot, that sounds like an awesome thing to do. So went and became a corpsman, and then that's kind of when I got my eyes really open to, holy shit, I had no idea how little I knew. And that's when I was able to start learning. A lot of good mentors along the way. And yeah, so from an EMT program, graduated that. He helped me build a little kit for my car. And at the time, they still weren't doing tourniquets. So it was a cravat and like a wooden dowel as a tourniquet if you ever needed it. Like the first time I went through the EMT program, tourniquets were not used. We didn't talk about them at all whatsoever. And when I went through BMTCP, I think it was, the Basic Medical Technician Corpsman program in San Antonio, that was kind of a joint thing with the Air Force and the Army. Tourniquets were front and center for us. So I really learned about tourniquets. I learned staging from them. I learned a lot of really good lessons that I still use to this day with tourniquets, because I was learning from dudes that were put in a teaching role as a way to kind of help them with the deployment cycle. So all of my instructors were either like fresh back from Iraq or Afghanistan as line corpsman, or I had one guy who was had just retired as an 18 Delta Silver Star recipient. I think it was Vic. He just called him Vic. I think it was Victor Perez, I think. But yeah, that dude was a fucking wealth of information. So that's what got me started in medicine. That's kind of what got me started in the whole trajectory and path of what we're going to talk about today. So I'll also talk a little bit about the clinician class that we did as an AAR, a little bit with Milk, because he was one of the students. But we'll go from there. So with that, we'll get on to the show with the both of us. All right, guys. So this is the part where we bring on Milk, and we're going to start getting into some of the concepts behind getting your new guy squared away. Before we get into that, I wanted to touch on Milk was one of the students in that clinician class, so kind of wanted to get some of his feedback on it real quick. And yeah, how was class?
It sucked.
Yeah, it was terrible.
No, it was super good. I liked it because it wasn't the usual, stop the bleed kind of medical stuff. It was more like, okay, what are we actually going to be doing though? It was a lot more comprehensive.
Yeah, stuff that's not in your normal med classes, right?
Yeah. But still within the range of like what people can do, and more importantly, knowing what you can't do and what you need. You know what I mean? Because that's the real danger in anything medical is out kicking your coverage, outrunning your headlights and thinking you can handle something that you can't.
Mm.
So that was good. It was also good, the practical side. So like actually doing it.
Yeah.
Because you can look all this stuff up online and be like, oh, yeah, that's cool. I can do that. Can you, though? Like, have you done it?
Yeah, and I think, so for those of you that don't know, we did the first half of the day, or the first part of the class, rather, the first day, was mostly didactic, so kind of teaching. And as we went through a topic like vital signs, we would kind of pause, do a little breakout session, how to take blood pressures, and run everybody through it. So tried to break up try not to do a death by PowerPoint, but with medicine, like a lot of it is just, it's just like hard fact. So that is kind of an unfortunate part of it, but we tried to break it up as much as possible. So,
well, at least you were civilized about it and handed out like that nice handout, like that was professionally printed and that had the slides. So you're not just sitting there trying to scribble everything down and missing the conversation and what's happening. You can kind of sit back and engage knowing that you have the slide there. That was huge.
Yeah.
Such an easy thing to do that people don't do.
Yeah, and I think that's just me going through a bunch of classes that have not been like that. And, even like college level classes like A&P and stuff, and I'm just sitting there the whole time just taking notes, not comprehending what the fuck they're saying.
Yeah.
So, second day we went out into the shoot house in DAC and kind of put together a little makeshift clinic, which I thought was pretty cool. Then we started seeing patients and kind of rotating the role of who's going to be, the quote-unquote provider, and then we had folks that were helping out. So
that was cool too, because you actually set up, like, there's a lot to learning when you're sitting there with your Starbucks latte and everything's comfy and somebody's talking about like taking vitals in an austere environment and everybody's like, yay, I can do it. It's a lot different when you're like in a filthy like place of terror like the DAC, and you had it all set up so you can look around. As a person who, I've never set up an austere clinic, I don't know what the fuck to do, where to put shit, having that all set up, and so you've seen that, like that's in the memory now. You've been in an austere clinical setting and done those things. I think that's big, and that's a lot of times overlooked.
Yeah, and just rotating them through, seeing a bunch of different types of medicine patients. We kind of focused on medicine for the most part. It wasn't so much a trauma class. We did do some wound care closure, or wound care and wound closure. So that was good. Glad everybody signed a waiver. As a couple of crazy bastards started stapling their arms. And it's like, oh, I wonder how this would feel. So that was kind of a inadvertent good teaching moment, because then a bunch of the students actually got to do like live staple removal and live staple placement. Lab, yeah, it became an impromptu live lab. So that was good. And then we kind of gave them some of those references that we had talked about, like the EMRA, urgent care guides, and antibiotic guides. And what I tried to do with it is let them run as far as they could with it. And then when they didn't know, then I would kind of be like, well, what other resources do you have? Because it would be, it would be the abbreviation for Bactrim. And they're like, I don't know what this is. And I'm like, well, what other resources do you have? And then they go in the back to the resources section and they pull out like a Merck manual. And they're like, oh my God, this is so much better than that. The EMRA guide. And I'm like, yeah, like that's the Bible. Like I just gave you an abbreviated version for your pocket. But if I had told people, yeah, go look through this enormous book, they'd be like, oh, fuck, this is gay.
Yeah.
So kind of leading them to that conclusion on their own that was good.
It was also a team sport, like, because that's how it is in school, right? Like, it's a team of, like, when you're in a student clinic or something like that, you're all working together to figure it out. So, like, it just kind of naturally evolved to where you had the one person actually doing the rep, but then you had another person looking through the pocket guide, and if you could find the answer there, great. If not, the other dude had the Merck manual open on his lap and was thumbing through stuff,
Yeah.
It was great.
So I think guys got a lot out of it. We'll probably run another one sometime early next year. But yeah, so that was the clinician. I think it was a pretty good success. I had one of the guys tell me, sent me a message and was like, hey, my buddy called and said he thought his kid had appendicitis, and we'd kind of shown him how to do like a basic abdominal exam and what to look for appendicitis, and he was able to tell his buddy over the phone, like, hey, try these things. And whatever happened. But he's like, hey, you should probably go get that checked out then. So, yeah, that was good feedback. I mean, that was like a week after the class that he hit me up, and he's like, hey, I actually used some of that knowledge. Like, it doesn't have to be, the end of the world Russian paratroopers and shit. Yeah. It could just be, 2 a.m. Like, should I take my kid to the hospital or not?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that was good. Coming up, I always like to give a shout out to DAC. We do have a small unit skills challenge light, Lyte. Bush Light, coming up next weekend. I think it's already full, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't think any of y'all will be able to get into it, but look on their website for the next one, Defensive Action Center. So that'll be good. We'll do some stuff on that this upcoming weekend when we do it. But every time we do it, we learn more, and I think those are probably like the biggest learning experiences for us, is actually going out in the field and putting all of the stuff that we rep into practice. So
that's the laboratory.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to it. Let's get into getting the new guy unfucked, or squaring the new guy away. Getting the new guy unfucked just sounds kind of fratty, kind of rapey. So we'll probably go with getting the new guy squared away. Be a little less sodomy.
It's not entirely off the mark.
So, some of the questions that kind of got asked on that thing I threw out on Instagram, we'll kind of just address as we go. But I know I kind of started talking a little bit about me getting started in this with, getting my Ruger LCP as my first gun, thinking I'm good to go. And then just kind of having my eyes opened later on. It's like, oh my God, I have nothing. I'm going to fucking die in the street. So, do you want to talk about kind of some of your progression?
Similar. You wake up one day and you're like, oh shit, it's on me. Mm-hmm. And you kind of don't know where to go, which is, I think that's getting better. The community, all these people talking about shit, has gotten better. Like people, I think nowadays, I grew up with guns and everything, but didn't get serious about like actually being able to do shit with them until maybe like 2015-ish. And, there were resources online. You could go and watch videos on, I'm going to review 3 belts. And
it was kind of skimpy, though.
It's pretty skimpy. And now it's almost kind of the opposite, where it's like, Jesus Christ, there's, how many fucking people are making shit. Oh, our chest rig has a little doodad on it, and now you got to buy that. Mm-hmm. Spoiler alert, it also only works with our shit, so you had to buy the whole catalog.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think people kind of get overwhelmed.
I don't know if that's a worse problem.
I don't think
it's kind of on par though, because I don't know, in the beginning, like I talked about, like when I got started, like what gun do I buy? I don't know. I watched like Nut and Fancy and Such and James Yeager. It's like that's all there was.
You're like, apparently I just need to spray paint whatever I get, and I'm good to go.
Yeah. And now it's almost like paralysis by analysis kind of deal. Like I don't know who's credible. I don't know what to buy.
And honestly, my journey with credit cards and the internet was and multicam was just that. It was, you see something shiny and some guy making sense, like, oh shit, that makes sense what he did there. I'm gonna buy all that. Mm-hmm. And you buy it, and you're like, okay, great. And then somebody else makes sense. And you're like, wait, I have 2 of them now. How do I know which one? And then you're pretty soon you're swimming in fucking Cordura. And I think it's starting to come around. You hear people mention it, but you need to start from the beginning. Like, what is it you're trying to do? Mm-hmm. Like the LCP. Are you trying to have a teeny tiny little gun you can carry everywhere and set it? Done. Box checked. Right? Are you assaulting a hardened position with the boys? That's not going to be enough.
Yeah, probably not an LCP.
Right? Yeah. And so I think that's the thing that I see a lot, is kind of this binary thinking. And you see it in everything. People are like, whenever I hear people like, should you wear armor, or is it plate carrier or chest rig? And that's like going to a construction site or a auto mechanic shop and being like, which is better, screwdrivers or wrenches? They would beat your ass. Get the fuck out of here. Like,
the answer is yes.
And the answer is yes. Like, what are you doing? Like you at the end of the day, you kind of need all. Do you need to be able to be low? Like I hear people like, oh, don't wear multicam because that looks like Army, and you don't want to look like Army. Well, sometimes you do. Sometimes you need good camo, and everything comes in multicam, so don't be scared of multicam. But also, you also need to be able to throw shit over your civilian clothes and be able to, like, I think it was Adam from Spiritus, they had I think it was their fighting load video. One of their most recent ones, he was talking about wearing, like, regular breeches. And you can put a camo top on, so it's kind of best of both worlds. Yeah, that's smart, but that doesn't mean don't buy G3s, and have combat pants, because there's also time you just wear combat pants. Like, you're not hiding, you're running around with fucking armor and a rifle. Nobody cares what color your breeches are.
Right. Jeans are kind of a moot point.
Yeah. So you kind of need both. So I almost think of it like, it's kind of like navigation. You don't just say, well, here's the world, find your way in it. No, we have to draw a grid, right? We have to say, look, we're gonna impose these lines, and then that's going to give us a common language that we can speak, and that we can, a matrix that we can locate ourselves in and navigate. You kind of need to do that with your gear. What is it that you're trying to do? What is it that you can do? And unfortunately, the gear is sexy, and you want to buy all that stuff, and you kind of have to. Like, that's another part of it is this shit is stressful. Like, most people are preparing for something that's not great. Nobody wants it, but you kind of see it on the horizon. So the gear is, I think people focus on that. I know I do, because it's the itch you can scratch. You can do
check
something.
The box.
Yeah, you can do something about it, because you have this drive. I need to do something about this. Oh God, I need to do something about this. And like, one part of your brain is like, well, let's go run. Let's just buy this.
I don't know. I just placed an order with OB Tactical.
Yeah, let's just buy these new pouches, and then it feels like I did something. I worked on the problem today, and yeah, you kind of did. But at a certain point, it's diminishing returns, where it's like, dude, you're
right.
You spent another $300 and 3 days rearranging your chest rig for what?
Yeah. It's what are you actually planning for? Yeah. Like, what is your threat model? We kind of talked about it before. Like, METTC, like, it is a thing. Like, what are you doing? Like, are we just going downtown and things are a little hairy? Like, I'm probably not bringing 10 mags and a rifle and an overt kit. Like, maybe it's an MBAV under a hoodie, and an extra Glock mag than I normally carry, right? So you kind of end up getting it all, but with this today, we'll probably kind of help guide some of that credit card use with priorities a little bit. So if you're like, we're gonna go at this from the dude he's got the spirit, and I think we touch on that real quick. Like, you can have all this cool guy shit, if you can't, run a mile, if your head is not in the right place. Like, the biggest thing for me is, like, does a guy show up? Like, we're doing land nav, or we're gonna go out and do whatever nods work or something. Like, you start to see certain guys will show up and certain guys don't. So getting the right headspace. And I'll take a dude with the right attitude and reliability, and he shows up and he puts out in blue jeans and a PSA over the dude with quad tubes in the Cry catalog. Like, I'll always pick that dude. So make sure that your head's in the right place with it. And if you start training with dudes, like, make sure that you're training with dudes. Like, show up. If people are not putting out dates, like, hey, let's go on a hike this day. And, maybe it's just you and a buddy. And, like, 2 of you go. But that's still 2 dudes that are on the right path, going out and actually doing shit. So, guy coming off the street, in the right headspace, wants to do this. I think it's like the bare minimum. Some kind of like a leather belt, rigger's belt, whatever. Something to actually, like, stiff belt to hold your gun up. Because once you start carrying anything bigger than like an LCP, like, that actually does kind of matter. You have to have a way to hold it to you. a pistol, some kind of a light, a knife, and for me a tourniquet. And that's pretty much like just daily shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, doesn't matter if I'm going to the grocery store, going cross country, whatever. That's just kind of how it looks for me. Because I can take that dude who has a baseline level of shit and I can hand him the rest.
I kind of think of it, it's kind of hard without drawing it, but like if you can imagine, concentric circles working their way out from, like you're in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
That's just you, your physical body, right? And it's all just, you can think of it as all just defense. It's not all defense. Eventually offense becomes a big thing, and this purely defensive mindset is kind of mind aids.
Mm-hmm.
In the gun culture, everybody's, I'm not advocating violence. Yeah, you fucking are, or you should be. But you start with just your naked monkey self. So it starts with your physical fitness. Like, I need to be able to fight buck ass naked, right? Okay, cool. You get that box checked to an acceptable. You're not, Jason Bourne or whatever, but you get it to whatever level you choose to set it, whatever your threat model is. I need to defend myself against the assholes in the world around me, right? Then as you move out to the next ring, I need to defend myself in a gunfight. I need to be able to handle myself in a gunfight, in a situation where the other person has a weapon and might take my life or liberty. Like, I need to be able to do that. Okay, well, now I got to buy guns and shit. Move out to, and maybe that's your CCW and that's your pistol. You move out from there. Okay, well, I need to and it kind of moves in proximity away from you. Your area of operation at that center point where you are is just your physical body. Nobody, don't touch me, right? I got to be able to fight, and then don't hurt me with weapons and shit. Okay, I need to have a gun, right? And then I don't fuck around in my county, right? Okay, now I got to have boys, and I got to have gear, and I got to have comms, and I got to be, and it just kind of moves out from there. And yeah, as you move out in those concentric rings, it maybe becomes less and less likely, these things that you're preparing for, but they're nevertheless important.
Right.
Like, and how far out in that ring you go just depends on, like we always talk about, like, what does it take to rape your wife in the street? Is it one guy with a screwdriver, or is it a steel platoon? Mm-hmm. Like, it's up to you.
Right.
It's up to you and your friends. You set that bar, what it's going to take to do bad things to you in your area.
Yeah. And guys, I feel like they stay in this entry level for way too long. Like, they'll buy a Glock 19, and instead of saving up for nods or armor or rifle, like a quality rifle or whatever, they go out and they're like, well, the Glock 19 is not good enough. I need to get a Walther PDP or whatever. And then I need to get, this, that, and the other. And you just stay there for years.
They circle that second
right.
ring.
And it's like, this is
and
like a
over.
level of comfort.
Mm-hmm.
And like you were talking about the concentric circles, it's like, the likelihood versus the severity. Like, this event may be very unlikely, but the severity is, I'm going to fucking die. My whole family's going to die if I'm not able to perform.
Yeah.
So that is most definitely a part of it. Going on from there, a lot of people from there will go into, I need a rifle, I need kit, I need whatever. I did that, and we did this kind of group trip out to Montana one time to this big old ranch, and I had all this cool guy shit, but my clothing fucking sucked. I had like a hoodie, and that was in a ball cap, and I was like fucking dying, and it was like the most miserable experience. We're on this ridge, and yeah, that was that fucking sucked.
Yep.
So for me, I put clothing after that. Like, you have your day-to-day stuff, but if you're talking about going out in the field or doing anything and your clothing is completely fucked, like, you don't have a way to keep warm, you don't have a way to keep the rain off of you, you're just going to be an environmental casualty.
Yeah.
Right? You're going to fucking die of hypothermia with your cry catalog on.
Yeah.
unless you bought the
and that
Cry Loft and Loft Britches.
Unless you do it real good. And that kind of brings up, like, so dude's sitting there and he's got limited money and he's trying to figure out, what do I buy? What do I need to buy? I look at it like there's two sort of driving factors. There's the one is theoretical, meaning some guy on the internet said it and that sounds smart. I should have that, right? The other is empirical, where you actually go out. If you require both of those for your purchases, one, you'll be pretty smart about it, and two, it'll pump the brakes a little bit. It'll slow you down. You're not just buying everything shiny on the internet, right? Because if you buy something, like say you buy, like, taps rigs are all hot right now, right? And everybody's talking about, oh, look at this, you can get so much out of this. And it's hilarious, but it's kind of natural, right? So you can buy that relatively cheap piece of equipment and empirically satisfy all of your needs. You can go out and do a medium to long range movement and carry the things you need to carry for that and check that box. So if you go out and you do that and you realize this is a little uncomfortable, this touches my body a lot, like the heat is bad, I don't like it, I think I can do this a little better, cool. If you have the funds to then, so you've got a 95% solution. If you've got the funds to
chase that 5.
Yeah, inch that up to 98, 99%, sure, do it.
Yeah.
But realize that's what you're doing so that you can say, okay.
And you're sacrificing that somewhere else.
Exactly.
Because by going from that, like the taps rig, which I think there's nothing wrong with the taps rig. Like, it does the same thing as the T-Rex rig, the Onward rig, fucking Cry rigs. It holds magazines to your body, and it has places to mount pouches to put other shit in there.
Yeah.
And it does it just fine. You're chasing that 5% after the taps rig. That's where it becomes really expensive. That's when you start getting into, Tier Tactical, Cry, Spiritus, all those, when a $70 Spiritus GP pouch is the same fucking thing as the Venture Surplus, $30 pouch, $20 pouch. It's a hole that with a zipper that you throw shit in, right? Like, Spiritus might be the hotness. It might be, it'll look a little cooler. You might get some credibility points on the gram or whatever, but it holds shit to your body. Yeah. So just know that while I have reached a point in my life where I think the 5% matters to me, and I use it enough, and I chase it, I understand that I'm chasing it.
Yeah.
And I understand I'm going to pay dearly for it. But if your baseline isn't set, like if you're chasing Cry when you have a taps rig and you don't have nods, like that's a no-go.
You fucked up, yeah.
Yeah. So prioritize your shit. I think once you've gotten all your bases covered, then you can start chasing that 5%.
Yeah. It's kind of like it's priorities of work, right? So that money you're going to spend getting an extra 3% effectiveness out of your chest rig is taking money from a completely unchecked box. You're going to be 3% better at carrying your mags for 12 hours.
Because
the
you can't
sun's
see
going to go down, and you're going to donate all that to the guy that bought knots.
Right.
Right. And there's some things that are hard line that, so you can empirically confirm that. Go out with your buddies on a zero loom night where it's just starlight, and they all have nods and you don't, and try to do literally fucking anything
other than cower under a tree.
Yeah. You can, and so there's a big flashing red light on your dash that, hey, I can't do it. Right. So then that diverts those funds. Like, you can spend less on this other stuff so that you can afford that other thing. Check all the major boxes before you start chasing all that. And that's one thing that I didn't really fuck it up, I guess, because I just I just bought all the things constantly. Like, I bought nods and I bought everything, but like, I'm financially irresponsible. So it may not have been the smartest thing overall in my life, but gear-wise, if you're on a budget and you're trying to fit, it will do you much better, because the fads come and go. Look at everybody buying, like, surplus stuff is all hot now. Everybody going back to belts and stuff. Like, the dude who never bought any of the cool new shit and just has his old bullshit belt kit from like early 2000s is like, what the fuck? Welcome back.
Yeah.
You know, like, he's been fine the whole time.
Yeah.
You know,
and he, like you said, he's been fine the whole time. It's done the same fucking thing. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, I built out a belt kit recently, and I paid a lot of money. It does the same thing as the chest rig with the backpack. Yeah. So my use case is a little bit different because I need to keep my back clear for a med bag. So for me, it works, and I knew what I was getting into. But yeah, clothing. So you can do this any number of ways. Like, I will tell you that there is a difference between like Columbia and Arc'teryx. Mm-hmm. There is a difference. Is it like gonna kill you difference? No. Some have, you know, Arc'teryx is going to be softer. It's going to have more features. It's going to fit better. You know, maybe it has pit zips or whatever. It's going to function better, right? You will get more for your money. But when we start breaking it down to like warming layers, like I don't buy Arc'teryx warming layers. Like I'll buy the Venture Surplus, you know, exactly. Poly Pro. Yeah. Venture Surplus has fucking Beyond clothing. Yeah. Like they're warming layers. Like I bought them last year. Yeah. And it was like $50 for a set, tops and bottoms. Like, yeah. So if you're getting started and you're in an area where it's cold, I'd say hit up Venture Surplus. And you can get some solid fucking deals there.
Yeah, and I mean, we're in a cold environment. You know, so empirically, when I go out with my... I mean, honestly, I have some expensive warming layers, but my waffle top, I don't even know where the fuck they're from. I think it might be like Condor or some shit.
Or something, yeah.
My bullshit that I bought in the beginning, I've never been out in the cold doing the thing in the laboratory, right? Getting that empirical feedback and thought, ooh, this isn't working. I've always thought, holy shit, this is working.
Right.
When it comes to the other stuff, you know, there are some areas, because on the one hand, you don't want to just buy the shiny thing, but on the other hand, there is benefit in those, and so you don't want to end up buying a bunch of bullshit and then end up having to buy the expensive thing anyway. So you don't want to buy 5 cheap things just to learn that, god damn it, there's a reason Arc'teryx is, you know.
Yeah.
And some of those, the clothing honestly is probably clothing and plate carriers. Which maybe is clothing, I don't know. Things that
hold things to your body,
conform to your body. That things that you have to wear. There is kind of a difference, you know. Mm-hmm. Nobody, I don't give a fuck. Like, Cry G3 combat pants are the pants Jesus wears, like 100%. When he goes to war, that is what. Like, they are more comfortable, more functional. When because I've worn other stuff. I hated Cry in the beginning. Everybody buying Cry was like, you try hard bitches, like. I'm not doing that. Everybody's like, bro, you need to fix your shit. Nope. And I bought every other kind of pair of pants. And the minute I bought Cries, and there's others that are close, and it also depends on your body type, like, and just kind of what you like to wear. Mm-hmm. But comfort is a thing.
Absolutely.
You know, and when I'm out in kind of subpar stuff, I'm worried about it ripping. When I'm dripping in sweat and it's sticking to my body and my crotch doesn't move and my... You know, it's not moving with me, and I'm kind of fighting it, you know, heaving my leg over a log or something. That isn't a huge thing, but it's a little thing that adds up.
Yeah. So, I mean, I kind of did the same thing. Like, I didn't want to buy Cry for the longest time. I was like, it's $230 for a pair of pants. It's fucking ridiculous. Blah, blah, blah. I mean, I started with, like, 511s. Mm-hmm. Like the OG with the little magazine pocket on the left. Yeah. I started with those. They didn't move for shit. From there, I think I went and got Triple Lot Design. They were okay, but there's no like camo to them. So I was like, okay. And then I saw the Fjallraven ones. Spent a bunch of money getting those altered to fit me because I have weird sizes. They're still great pants, but they're not like... I wore them through brambles, and it's already got like threads starting to pop. And I was like, okay, well, you know... who is it? Sear gets issued Beyond. So I was like, well, you know, I got a fat discount on Beyond for being a vet. So I was like, well, let's do Beyond. Like, it's basically the same as Cry. And then we went and did the first Susk, and I wore Beyond pants. And the Sear guys were like, yeah, we don't fucking wear those things because the crotch always blows out. And I was like, god damn it. I just spent like $170 for a pair of pants. I could have saved, $50 more and just bought Cries.
Yeah.
And now that I've bought Cries, I don't wear the end of their pants.
Yeah. And that, so there are little nuggets like that. Same with plate carriers, right? Some plate carriers, like the MBAV, there is no more comfortable. I've never, and granted, I haven't worn a lot of, and that's the other thing. Try your friends' shit on.
Absolutely.
Like whenever I always have a couple of pair of Cry pants. I'm always like, put them on. Just fucking put them on. Stop talking.
We did that at Susk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just fucking put them on.
Yeah. Try it out.
And when they put them on, it's like, fuck. You can just see the dollar signs.
Yeah.
It's just like, yeah. I mean,
welcome, just see them like
welcome to the
their
real
wallet. They're just fuck.
Yeah. There are certain little things that it's like, okay, shit. That might be regular pants, maybe instead of a 95% solution, or more like a 75%, and the Cries get you up there. But those kind of things. Also, keep in mind, you can do all the things in other pants. You're still chasing
You can do it all in blue
remainder.
jeans.
Yeah, you're still chasing a remainder.
Yeah.
It's just a little more of a remainder. So there are certain areas where maybe don't... Because I bought UF Pro. I did the same thing. I bought UF Pro, which UF Pros are pretty good, actually. I bought all the different pants, and so those are all in a duffel bag in my garage now. Mm-hmm. I ended up buying a bunch of Cry at the end of it. So I could have saved all that money by skipping to the end. So... There are little areas where you want to skip to the end, which the only way to mitigate that, I think, is to try other people's stuff. Mm-hmm. When your buddy shows up and he's got some weird plate carrier and yours kind of is uncomfortable and you don't like it and you're constantly wanting to take it off and stuff, try his on and see it. Dudes love sharing their, mostly sharing their,
Validates them.
Yeah, it makes them feel better.
My friends want to try my stuff out.
Yeah. But it lets you feel it because body types are different, Chest rigs and stuff like that may be similar. But, that's kind of more external. That's just the thing that kind of hangs on you. I mean, some are more comfortable than others, but I haven't noticed a huge difference. Mostly when it comes to chest rigs, it's how you set them up. Mm-hmm. That makes them more comfortable or not. But like pants, you can't really, there's not a setup to those. Those either fit you and are comfortable. When I'm out in my Cries, I'm not thinking about my britches. I'm not thinking about my clothes.
Right, you're able to focus on what you need to be focusing on, other than like, man, my fucking crotch doesn't move in these.
Yeah, I'm miserable.
God forbid it blows out, and you're just like sitting there fucking freeballing America.
Yeah, and in before, just suck it up and be tougher. Yeah, granted, like be as tough and awesome as you can, but even if you're a super tough and awesome guy in your blue jeans, if I put you in Cries, you're going to be even better. Because that's one less thing that you have to think about. It's one less thing that's in your way. You're not fighting it. It's working with you. Mm-hmm.
And I mean, the USGI pants and stuff like that, like the uniform bottoms, like there is a place for those, and I do buy those. But I buy them for, there is no supply chain anymore, and I need a camo pair of pants, and I buy them in all sorts of different sizes. Like waist sizes, because I know like end of the world happens.
Starvation size.
Right, like end of the world happens. Like I'm gonna be doing a lot more physical activity. Rations are gonna be a little bit more limited. You just start losing weight, and I just kind of put those aside. Like the fucking pants I had when I went through boot camp. Like I'm probably gonna be able to fit into those fucking things again. So there is a place for those, but I would rather put my money into good quality, comfortable clothing than like a Cry chest rig. I'd rather get a Taps and a pair of Cry pants than USGI pants and a Cry chest rig.
Yeah,
at least that's how I look at it. That's kind of been my journey with pants and stuff. But I still wear the USGI tops, like the field tops. Mm-hmm. They work well for me. I've never had a problem with them.
And that again, that's the empirical thing. You go out and I'm wearing some USGI top and it's not bothering me, so it's out of my mind. I don't need something shiny. I wear Cry tops, but I have worn USGI and there's not a difference. So I think to myself, okay, I didn't really need to blow the money on this top. This top isn't getting me anything.
I think the pants are pants and footwear, pants, footwear, socks, and underwear. Like everything from the waist down. Like that is where the money should be spent. Fuck, man. It's just like the biggest pain in the ass if the pants are just rubbing you raw and it's just like not, you're stepping over branches and down trees and shit. And you're just like having to yeet your hips over them. So,
because movement, I mean, depending on where you live, like we're in thickly wooded mountains. That's fucking work.
Mm-hmm.
Anywhere you want to go, it's work. You're
It's a lot of hip flexor there.
Yeah. And so for the waist down, like I don't even like anything on my waist. I don't like wearing a gun belt out in the woods or anything because those are my tank tracks. They need to be free and clear to move, go over logs, squat. You got to take a knee all the time. That needs to be free and clear and just lubed up and ready to go. And even then, they fucking hurt.
Yeah. Like, I mean, if you're doing the things and you're doing them well, like your legs are still going to hurt regardless. If you just want to wrap them up in fancy pants, it makes it suck a little bit less. Footwear. So I have bought all sorts of fucking boots. I've Merrell's, Solomon's, Handwags, Keen. I've done all sorts of boots. Nixie Works did a write-up on boots and actually cited a lot of really good articles about like how much weight on your foot equals is like pounds in your pack. Yeah. And I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was like for every pound on your foot, it's like 8 pounds in your pack.
Something like that.
Yeah. So if your boots are a pound each, that's like 16 pounds in your fucking pack. And I started fucking with that and like intentionally trying to get lighter boots. Oh my God, it's so much easier. Because I just, I've had, reconstructive ankle surgery, so I'm always worried, like protecting my ankles and shit. But, I mean, going out, and especially like in the winter, holy shit. Like you put on, like I got those Handwag boots, like leather, like end of the world boots. They're fucking great and I love them. God damn, they're like 3 pounds each though. Mm-hmm. Fucking hell. Yeah. And then you add on snowshoes and I'm like, why do my hip flexors hurt so bad? Like I go to the gym and part of my warm up is intentional like hip flexor exercises because of that. Because I'm like, never again. Yeah. So I've ended up getting like winter boots and kind of fall or kind of spring summer boots rather. Spring and summer, I found that, and again, the Nixie Works thing kind of goes into Gore-Tex or not Gore-Tex. The not Gore-Tex ones, like I've stepped in puddles and they are dry in minutes. Mm-hmm. And it works fucking phenomenally. So I have the Handwags for winter, but that's kind of been my experience with them. Get boots that fit well. Make sure that you get, in my experience at least, a little bit bigger size because my feet swell and you can add, an extra layer of socks in the winter. I do Darn Tough socks, and I started doing these like toe socks, like silk toe socks, the sock liners. I haven't had a single blister since I started doing that. Yeah. So powder your feet, sock liners for me, and Darn Tough socks. So that's what works well for me.
Yeah, and I mean a lot of that, like you hear even with just us talking. If you talk to people who have bought lots of gear about gear, they're always going to come back to, well, I did this one thing and I learned this. Like, that's the key. Do the one thing. Go out. Like, if you're talking about, well, I need to be able to carry a combat load and my rest overnight equipment and my sustainment load and all that shit through the woods. Neat. Get your school bag and your tennis shoes and go do it. And figure out what doesn't work. You know? If you have no money, if you go out and you're like, oh, God, footwear and backpacks are important. Okay. Start working on those problems and find ones. And unfortunately, sometimes you have to buy ones that don't work, that don't feel great, and so you try something else. That's, I think, unavoidable. That's with any, like if you were in construction or if you were an athlete, like you have to experiment. But if you at least use that empirical, what you're learning actually in the field, doing the thing that you're trying to do, that at least gives you some sort of true north. That at least gives you some sort of objective reference to know that, okay, well, yeah, I did buy 3 pair of boots, but it wasn't just because the internet said they were good. It's because I went out and I actually experimented with them.
Right. And as much as I hate REI, like from a, moral standpoint, I guess, REI is fucking great for footwear. Like, you can take those boots, try them out, beat the ever-loving piss out of them. I think they changed their return policy to like a year. But you can bring them back in fucking shambles within that year, and they'll replace them or refund you. Yeah. So if you're going to try out footwear, and you're like, I want to see Gore-Tex versus non-Gore-Tex, like they have Handwags, they have Solomon's, they have Keen. So REI for footwear, at least is what I've done in the past. And I'll just, take them on a hike or two. If they're not working for me, I just take them back to REI.
Yeah.
And then I'll return the whole thing and buy them on Amazon.
Because sometimes there you go. Yeah. Because sometimes your empirical findings contradict what everybody says. So, for example, everybody says, oh, don't wear Gore-Tex because your feet will sweat and they don't breathe. And I don't have that problem. Theoretically, that makes sense. And yes, that should be something that you consider. But when I go out and I hike in our environment doing the things that we do, I don't have trouble with Gore-Tex. So for me, I don't have to worry about that. But I wouldn't know that if I didn't go out and actually do it.
Right.
There is no scenario where you can just watch YouTube and run up your credit card and put all that in a bucket and be done.
No, not at all. And I think the thing that it was a really interesting article from Nixie Works, but it wasn't so much that the Gore-Tex doesn't work; it's that it gets clogged easily.
Yeah.
So all that stuff I thought was really interesting. And then the higher the heel, the more likely you're going to have ankle injuries.
Yeah.
Just because you're so far off the ground, it's, tactical high heels at that point, stripper heels. And I do that when I have like work boots on or something like that. And, I have fucking sprained my ankle more times in like Danner work boots than I have in Chucks.
Yeah.
Or Vans. So.
And you'll find 500 guys that swear that's not the way it is. I don't care. Like this,
my ankles feet, disagree.
Yeah, my feet in my area with this equipment works. Leave me alone. You're done.
So I guess to wrap up footwear, get good socks too. I like Darn Tough, Smart Wool, whatever. Some kind of wool sock I think works the best. Work when it's cold, or they work when they're cold. No shit. Work when they're wet. So, and then just make sure that you get a couple of pairs so that you can kind of rotate them out as you're walking around when you're taking breaks or whatever.
And the idea of wool, that's one thing where you can. I don't want to say just go out. I said go out in your tennis shoes and your school bag. Do some research. Like if you look at kind of reputable resources, and by reputable, sometimes it's counterintuitive, but like bigger names. Sometimes that is a kind of credibility because they don't want to say stupid shit. Because
like on YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because they at least put in the time, and also they have resources, they have friends, they talk to people, they're kind of in the know. If everybody is saying wool is the shit, maybe buy wool stuff because wool is the shit, so there is, like we said about the condor, I don't think that stuff is wool, it's like polyester, some bullshit. That works just fine, but I do better with my wool. I had just some merino shit I got off Amazon, base layer stuff. It does seem to work a little bit better, especially with
you turned me onto those last year. I don't remember. It's like 32 below or 33 below or something
32
like that.
heat or something, 32, I don't know what it is, but it's cheap. It's cheap.
Yeah.
But you can find this. So if you're doing your research and you're like, okay, I can't afford the fucking $800 Cry insulating pants or whatever that I have to wait 8 months to get, but all these people are talking about wool. That seems to be the key ingredient. Maybe I'll just get some cheap wool, and sure enough, that's 95%.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
Yeah, works when it's wet. It's you know.
There's a reason everything's made out of Cordura or Squadron or any of these other weird space age stuff because it works. And so if somebody's making something out of some other thing, maybe that's not the way to go.
Yeah,
your research can guide you.
Yeah, it definitely can. I think we're pretty fortunate. I mean, we live in America, so we are pretty fortunate. But by America, I don't mean like the United States of America. I mean
America actual.
Yeah, America actual. Like one of the states that's actually fucking America. You can go out and see kids playing in the street and like neighbors talking to each other. Yeah. And where the cops pick up the homeless people and kick them the fuck out. So, but with that anyway. Meanwhile, we get all the seasons.
Yeah.
So we get the wet season, cold and snow, and then we get like pretty warm summers.
100 degrees.
Yeah, 100. I think it was like we went out last summer. I think it was when we were doing some land nav stuff, and it was like 103 out.
Yeah.
So relatively warm. I mean, if you're from Arizona, it's probably not warm to you, but for most people, it's pretty warm, and it's warm enough to where your clothing's going to start mattering. So, I mean, I guess we're just leaving the warm season, so we can kind of touch on that. I mean, for warm season, I just kind of go old school with it. I don't wear a shirt. I just use the field top ventilation. I mean, I think your favorite line is every pair of pants has built-in ventilation.
Yeah, the sear trick. When you see your buddy just drop the fly, and it's like they all have vents. And I was like, oh my god, the technology.
And it works.
Yeah,
and it works well. Yeah.
They'll sell you an expensive pair of pants because they have a zipper 3 inches below the other zipper that all pants have.
Right.
Like, oh fuck. Also, that's the hottest part, right? Where your boys are.
Yeah. It's the fucking MMA dude. Why'd you take your pants off? My balls was hot.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I don't really change a whole lot as far as clothing goes. I don't wear a shirt underneath. It's just a field top, and then I wear the Keen. No, not Keen. I wear Loa. The Loa ones. The Zephyrs without Gore-Tex.
Those are the shit.
So, I mean, as far as ankle stability, like, it's not as good as my hand wags, but it has a thinner sole, so I can feel things a little bit better on the ground. I love it. It's worked out great.
It's enough, right? And when we go out,
it's enough.
I'm not fighting my boots. I'm not fighting my shoes.
No, my feet aren't like dumping sweat like they were with hand wags when I was wearing those last summer, and it was like 103.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck, this is just miserable. So,
I've had pretty good luck with footwear. I have Solomon's fit my feet really well, and everybody talks about Solomon's wearing out, and I guess maybe that's true. I have an old pair of 4D Quest or whatever, kind of the tall ones, and I have absolutely abused those and used those a lot, and they're totally fine.
I can't do those. I bought them. I was really hopeful. I had to give them to Scoot because they were like little, constrictors on my feet. It was just fucking miserable.
I think everybody's. I bought a pair of really expensive AKU, because my buddy was like, "Oh, these are the shit. These are the ones you got to have." And I bought them, and I'm like, "Oh, these look really nice." They don't fit my feet real good. They're too narrow, and it's like there's no YouTube video going to tell you that. You just have to.
No, I mean you can
eat that and go learn.
Right, and that's where REI comes in because these fucking things don't work.
I wish I would have bought them at REI.
Yeah, like REI, like you can get Crispies, you can get a Solos, you can get all sorts of boots, and figure out what works for your fucking foot.
Yeah.
But hot weather, most of my clothing doesn't really change. Usually it's like Cry bottoms and a USGI top and a boonie cap. Mm-hmm. So I think boonie caps fucking rock in all seasons. They really are great in summer and keep the sun off your face and off the back of your neck. Mm-hmm. So other than that, like I just had water and stuff, but
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, field tops are great. I do. If I can possibly wear one, I'll wear a combat top just because. I don't know, maybe I'm a fat bitch or something like that. My torso, I like having the. It is, people talk, well, you can't go through the brush and shit. The fuck you can't. Like, we live in the brushiest, thickest fucking Endorian jungle there is, and it's fine. Cause,
Ewoks coming out.
Yeah. Because most of that, especially if you're wearing armor, because most of that soft stuff is covered.
Right.
And your sleeves are still tough, and, as you're moving through branches and stuff, you're kind of shouldering and arming through stuff, right? First of all, you're holding a gun, so your protected arms are in front of most of that. I've never had I have old combat tops that I've worn on mountain ops, and I don't have any problem with the soft part. As soon as the weather starts to get cooler, though, that's where it starts to get. You can wear a base layer under your combat top and still be good. But if the temperature is going to drop enough that you actually have to worry about maintaining body temp, that's where I switched to a field top. Even though the last couple of summer, of course, we haven't. No, I wore armor with they're interchangeable. I kind of do prefer a combat top. It's a little more comfortable, but
I fucking hate combat tops.
Yeah,
I don't know why I have them. I never fucking wear them.
If they got Thanos from reality, I wouldn't cry about it. Like it's not that I have to have it. And field top is. I do like the pockets in a field top. They're almost smocked, like. Mm-hmm. I guess they all have it, but like the Cry ones have that kind of big pocket. Like that's useful. And fun fact: if it's hot enough, you just soak everything, and now you're just wearing nice, cool. People are wearing like they bring like, oh, I bring this rag because I can put water on it, put it around my neck. It's like,
bro, I just dumped that on my shirt.
Just wear a shirt.
I just wear that on my
it's
shirt.
It's gonna be soaked. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think we were doing something in June or something, and it was like abnormally hot. It was like 95 for one of those patrol classes through DAC, and I was out there, and it was like unbuttoned down to the fucking navel, just open for the breeze, and it works just fine.
Yeah.
Let's see. I don't really change anything else. Footwear, boonie cap, and I don't wear a shirt. That's about it for hot weather. Mosquitoes. We do bring some stuff for mosquitoes. Like, I'm a big fan of the Thermacell.
Your little electro deal that they
Yeah. I like the Thermacell.
I always just walk close to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They do love that Italian blood, the marinara. And I'll bring a mosquito, like a Sea to Summit mosquito thing for my face. So if they are bad, and especially over the boonie hat, then it keeps it off of your face. So if we're on a pause or whatever, or we're like just kind of hanging out for the evening, I'll just...
And sleeping. Like
when
you're
and sleeping.
Your head is what's...
Oh, I bring a whole fucking net for that thing.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, and I mean that's cheap. Like the Sea to Summit thing is cheap, keeps it from being eaten alive. The Thermacell I think is fairly reasonably priced. It works pretty well. I found out, I don't know, I think my wife told me, showed me this thing, like people in India that don't get eaten by mosquitoes, and like some tourist was there, and they're like, oh yeah, we use citronella soap. And I was like, oh.
Jot that down.
Yeah, so I bought citronella soap, and I always forget to use it before we go out into the field because I don't want to use it all the time.
You know, an old school
smell
trick?
like a fucking candle at work.
My family, I don't know if it's I don't know where the fuck it's from, but sulfur. You can buy just straight sulfur powder, and my mom used to always just like pinch some and just make you eat it, and you'd eat sulfur, and you can also like dust it on your skin. They will not fuck with you.
Interesting.
They don't want none of that devil powder.
Interesting. Yeah, every change of seasons, I put permethrin on my tops and bottoms.
Yeah.
Because that'll just kill them, and the repellent as well.
Yeah.
But
fuck bugs.
Yeah, fuck those things. Mosquitoes, like they serve literally no purpose.
I don't want to get. I don't like you're gonna catch a bad one and get sick.
Right.
And all fucked up from some bug.
Especially if you're like down south in like Florida where like malaria is making it come back and shit.
Where Bill Gates has all his GMO fucking skeeters doing God knows what.
Yeah. Let's see. I think we'll touch on, because we're coming into wet season. So some kind of a top. I mean, this could be as simple as like a USGI poncho. Like I carry that thing every time we go out in the field. That thing fucks. It works well. It goes over your pack. You can string it up, lay under it. Super versatile. They're fairly cheap, like $50 maybe. And you can call it good. And then you've got something to throw over your bivy sack or whatever if you bed down. Yeah, ponchos are great. If you're getting started and you can't afford, the other stuff, I say just get a fucking poncho, man.
Yeah.
Like an OD or a multicam or even Woodland up here works pretty well.
And those are everywhere. You can get them cheap anywhere.
Yeah.
Shelter.
I like the US
shelter.
So the Amazon one, I bought those. It's called USGI, but it's fucking thin. I wasn't very happy with it. I bought an older one. That shit is like thick.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, that's the play.
More rubbery.
And me and another dude went out and did some stuff in early summer, late spring, and a big storm was rolling through. And with the ponchos, we were able to button them together, and we just make this, like 10-foot long shelter kind of thing. We just hang out under it until the storm passes. If you do want to start getting into jackets and stuff, I'm a big fan of Sitka. Sitka makes awesome stuff. For me, a must-have are pit zips, just because like that Gore-Tex is trapping all that fucking heat, especially if you're walking. The Sitka one worked pretty well for me. I just got the Beyond Multicam A6 one. That thing I think is better than the Sitka, purely because it has in the back, like they actually paid attention. In the back, I think it is the bungee waist. Mm-hmm. So like moves with you. If I got to pull like a concealed gun out or whatever, it gives that little give. With the Sitka and most of these, they're just taut. Like you can't pull it. You got to lift the whole fucking thing up to your nipples or whatever. But with that, I can kind of flip it out and get a gun out. And it's got, I think they're on sale for like $200, and they're normally like $900.
That's stupid. I paid $900 for it like just months ago. It's fucked up.
And if you're MIL, first responder, a nurse or whatever, they do the ID Me thing, and you can get like 30% off on Beyond. So everything but Beyond pants has worked well for me.
Well, and the rain thing, like there are times where it's just pissing down, and you got equipment, right? Maybe you got like comms equipment. I don't want my shit just soaked. Mm-hmm. And one thing I like about the Beyond, what is it? Is it A6?
I think A6 is like, so it's like the Equus system.
Yeah.
So it's like A1 is like their base layer.
Yeah.
And then A9.
I think it's A6 is their
A6 is the
jacket.
Is the jacket.
So I like that thing. It's the fit is nice. I can throw that actually over my, if I'm not like wearing a back panel. I haven't tried it with a back panel, but like over my armor and everything, I can just throw. That's just a solution. I can have wadded up in a GP pouch or something. I can just throw that over and I'm dry. And if I got a pack cover, I don't have to worry about that. Now I'm not fighting the rain. I'm back on task and not having to do that. But I also have other cheaper shit, just in my civilian life. I have this Columbia thing. I spent $50 at Cabela's or something. It's not just as good because I've been in pissing rain where I'm like, oh, cool, this is soaking through.
It's coming through a little bit.
Yeah, it did most of again, the 95% solution versus like, no, you're good. Like in that Beyond, I'm just good, and I don't have to think about it. Right? It's one less.
But at full price, that's $50 versus $900.
No, yeah. If you've just got the $50 thing, roll with it. You're fine. But just know that that's the kind of where you chase that additional 5 or 10%.
I think at $50, I'd go with a poncho.
Yeah.
If that's your budget, I would go with poncho. It's going to do a much better job, and it's going to do so many more things.
It'll also be a shelter. Like I can't make a shelter out of my Beyond jacket. There's a lot of things like that. But it's kind of nice to have. But I didn't buy that before I bought all the other stuff. So.
I mean, I picked up the Beyond. My Sitka's worked great. I picked up the Beyond because it's supposed to be, it was on sale for $200 as compared to $900, and they're probably coming out with a new model and they're just liquidating
I think
what they
just
have.
sold to 511 or something, didn't they?
Oh fuck!
I think
Did they really?
Something. Don't quote me on that.
Oh god, I gotta look into that. If they did, I'm good. Yeah, that would suck because they make good shit.
Yeah.
Fuck. Derailed my train of thought. But Susk coming up this weekend is supposed to be a little wet, so I was like, yeah, sure, it's on sale. We'll try it out, see how it works. I know Redbeard's done a lot of stuff about wet weather. And unless it's like a pouring monsoon, I think he talks about wind shirts. So I've got, I'm not paid by Beyond, but I've got a Beyond wind shirt as well. I would buy the Cry one if it's ever in stock, but it never is. So, and I got that thing on sale for like $90. And so what I'll do is I'll wear that under my field top because it is kind of, I don't want to say like fragile, but it could get snagged on some stuff and just rip open. So I wear that under my field top, stops the wind, and it is relatively water repellent. I'll throw some Nick Wax on it. Boom.
Yeah.
You're good for light drizzles, stuff like that.
It's another one of those empiric things, and back to those kind of concentric rings. When we're talking about I need to move myself, my fighting load, a sustainment load through the forest. And so, okay. You're several rings out. You're with a group of people. You are doing things, right?
Your $50 Columbia will do just fine until you start getting into those. I'm going to be out in the middle of the woods in a torrential downpour. Like if you're in Arizona, like fucking forget everything we said. Buy a $50 poncho for the once in a generation. Storm that happens. I think they actually do get like wicked storms every once in a while, but maybe whatever. Fuck it. I don't know anything about Arizona.
It's one of those things where, say, with a Milsurp poncho, I can stay dry. I don't want to gunfight in that.
No.
Right? So
I mean, could you? Yeah, it'd be rough though. That's
kind of a thing where it's like, so I have that Beyond Gore-Tex thing, and then I also have the Cry LFW, LWF, whatever the fuck the I don't know, lightweight field something.
Is it the one that comes up over him?
No, the half jack. No. I'm not that. I'm not that into Cry. I'd probably buy it if it was available, but I do love Cry shit. But the one thing that I like about that is I can put a layer on that protects me from the elements, but my form that I've trained in to manipulate my weapon, to run around, to do stuff, hasn't changed. I didn't go from a bipedal primate thing to, fucking Grimace, M81 Grimace, right? Where now I gotta, fuck, my mags are under here. Like, it's, and that might sound like a bullshit thing. And again, the caveat is, yes, be a hard fuck that can fight the world in your skivvies with a knife. Yes, do that. But the fewer things you have to worry about and fight against when you're under stress, the better. So if I have a layer that I can put on that is form-fitting, can go under my armor or my chest rig or whatever, protect me from the elements, and not change anything else, that's comfortable.
Right.
You know, so that's something, but that's something, like, I have both. I have that and I carry a poncho because there's times I need a fucking poncho. But I've learned that from being out and doing those things.
Right.
Running my gun in a rainstorm in the woods after I've hiked a bunch, right? Like, realizing that, oh shit, I need a thing for this. And that's why I bought it, not because it's in the Cry catalog. Right?
Yeah. So the upcoming season, cold weather, we kind of talked a little bit on base layers already. Honestly, Venture Surplus will get you a bunch of shit. I don't know. What do you got for cold weather? I mean,
honestly, the base layers, I don't think really fucking matter. Like, the cheap shit from Condor works.
No, that part doesn't matter.
Works great. The merino wool, I like it a little better. It's a little thinner. It's because I don't like having a ton of shit, you're bunching up in your crotch and stuff.
Right.
The outer layer, I mean, I got those loft pants, way too fucking hot. Like, because you got to keep in mind, unless you're static.
If you're moving, they're too hot.
If you're fucking moving.
If you're bedding down for the night, they're fucking delightful.
Oh yeah, no, they're great for that. So they're good for that.
Which also means you can cut down on your sleep system.
Exactly. Yeah.
So.
Which again is an empirical thing, right? Because I've tried every sleep system there is. So like the hammock thing. Here's a little nugget. The hammock thing, the cocoon thing.
Hammocks. He has convinced me on hammocks. I tried it out. I went whole hog. I bought the same thing, and it is the way.
What is it? It's Snug Pack.
Yeah, the Snug Pack cocoon.
Yeah. Although our buddy tested, so he ordered one, but it hadn't come in yet, and we were sleeping in what, 20-ish,
21,
teens,
yeah, something like that.
Teens, 20-degree weather, and we were doing Coors Light science, and we're like, maybe you could just wrap a poncho liner, a whoopee,
underneath,
around
make an
hammock.
underquilt.
Yeah, and it worked great. Mm-hmm. So if you don't want to drop the money and you're already packing a whoopee.
He also had a sleeping bag in there though with
him. He did, yeah. You need your sleeping bag,
right?
In the
hammocks. Hammocks present their own, problems and their own, things that you need to take into consideration.
Yeah.
Because you and I just used the MSS on the ground, and I fucking hated my life that night. I mean, I was warm enough, but
I was fine. I slept like a dead baby.
Yeah, I was kind of going to sleep, and you guys were talking about wolves.
You were worried about wolves.
Yeah, you guys were talking about wolves.
You slept with your knife. You slept like a dead Viking.
Yeah, you guys were talking about wolves as I was drifting off, and I had this fucking night terror. Like, I physically felt like I was being dragged out by my head at one point, and I just pulled a knife out, and I was just laying with a knife and my Glock in my hand. And I was like, I don't fucking care. I'm not going out this way. I was like, I need a dog. I need to buy a fucking dog. But yeah, I think the hammock is, you need trees. So there is that. Jot that down.
Yeah.
But if you have trees, it's a much smaller signature. You're going to get some rope.
In a way, right?
You're going to get some rope marks on the tree. But, I mean, it's not, you can't take it down as fast. You can't just roll it up and throw it in a bag.
It kind of depends. Like a dude scanning on thermal, you're up off the ground, you're a hot spot. Now you can throw a poncho over it and thermal's fucking blind, right? So you can mitigate it. It is less, you don't leave a bunch of, but the problem is, signature-wise, you still got a bunch of tracks and stuff. And
I think it depends on what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like if you're actually doing no shit, there are dudes hunting us. Like I'm taking,
I'm not sleeping.
I'm not sleeping. First of all,
we jog at night.
Yeah. But if it's just going out and you're just practicing, LARPing or whatever, I think hammocks are the fucking way.
Well, and there is a case, on the, idea about gear. Like, do you need that capability? Yes, you can't just run all the time. 4 days in the mountains, you're gonna sleep. You have to rest. Like you're gonna fail if you don't. So you gotta have a way to rest, and you can split that kit up among guys because the whole team isn't going to be asleep at the same time, right?
Right. One dude can carry the sleep system.
You can do little
Another
things.
Dude carries a radio.
For us, our terrain being thickly wooded mountains, a lot of times you can't find a suitable flat. Like with a hammock, you can be on the side of a fucking hill. You can be, 80-degree.
Yeah, gravity's going to do gravity things regardless.
Yeah, you can string that up and you can sleep like the fucking Vietnam MACV-SOG dudes, just with their webbing just strung to a tree. You know, like you can do that with a hammock, but you got to bring. The problem with the hammock is convection. I don't know, the science of your ass freezing because you're crushing your loft in your bag. And then your back, the whole bottom of the hammock is exposed, and it just sucks.
And it kills. It kills all your loft.
It is a different cold
because you need to trap dead airspace, and if you're just laying on the bag, you've crushed that insulation.
And it's a different cold. Like it is a demonic kind of cold.
Yeah, yeah. Satan himself.
Yeah, yeah.
That's where the cocoon comes in.
The cocoon is the big money. Like, but honestly, I have not been able to, even in that 15-degree, 20-degree night. I couldn't zip that bitch up. Like, it was too fucking hot. Like, it was warm. The whoopee is a play. Like, if you can't afford, if you're like, fuck, I got to do hammock, and I don't want to freeze to death. The whoopee seemed to work fine. I mean, we should check with him and see. He might be like, no, it was gay. I just said that. So
I said that so you guys would do it next time.
Yeah. But it seems like it would work. Because the full-blown cocoon, what is that thing, $160 or something?
Something like that. I know my wife wasn't happy about it, but I was like, I'm not going to die in the fucking woods. Like, I slept in yours, and I was like...
I'm going to die in my house.
Oh, my God, this is wonderful. And we used them at Susk, and it got down to, like, low 40s.
Yeah.
And I had Ranger panties on, and that was it.
Yeah, it's
and
super
I had to
comfy.
open it up, and I was like, oh, my God, this is so warm.
Yeah, it's stupid comfy. So that's a nice little nugget, but... You know, the sleep system really depends a lot on, you know, what are your, you know, mission requirements. And I don't put that in quotes because, like, everybody you know, like the LARPing trope is cute and everything, and I get it in Minecraft and all that, but we're talking about doing war shit, right? So, like, there are times where you need to be able to sleep in a woods and not freeze to death. And you got to pack that around. Mm-hmm. That's the other thing. Because if you're in an area that you're not going to be... Also, you're probably... like, I love the MSS, the sleep system. That thing with the bivy in it, that thing is tits. It's great. I've used it a million times. It's great. But the hard fact is, in our environment, there's not a lot of... You're not always going to... And also, if we pick an appropriate patrol-based location... It's not out in the middle of a fucking field. It's not in a flat, open, normal campsite area. It's buried in a bunch of bushes somewhere. You know,
and you can't really dig in the winter.
Yeah. You can't dig, I mean, in the fucking sun. That's how I ruined my Essie knife is, there's rocks everywhere.
Dug
you know,
with a fucking knife instead of an e-tool.
Yeah, an e-tool. That might be user error, but there's rocks everywhere. You know, like, we're not getting a good campsite. With a hammock, you can just throw that bitch up. A couple of, you know, the dude on the gun can be underneath the hammock. You know, just you're together. It's easy. You can get it warm enough.
And I mean, I was bored at work the other day, so I was reading that. We talked about this. The Dan Morgan 76 dude, who basically went through like the Ranger Handbook as a story.
Yeah,
like their patrol. I think it's called like the patrol or something like that. But they talk about setting up like an LPOP kind of deal, a hide or whatever, and they just have one sleeping bag.
Yeah,
or they have one MSS or whatever. And then they just rotate. Like, you're on the glass, you're doing the radio, you're sleeping, you're pulling security.
Yeah. And
I think a team of 4 is ambitious for some dudes. Because finding 4 dudes that'll actually show up can be a fucking challenge. Yeah, like, think about that. Like, you're probably all not sleeping simultaneously if you're actually doing shit. Like, at least 50% security.
Yeah. And that's the kind of thing, so, like... Because I don't want to... You know, like every time anybody talks about gear, you end up talking about gear, which is important, but like the mindset, like what, you know, because like I'm thinking of the new guy, he's like, okay, so I just have to buy everything, like what the fuck, like do your research on, you know, what is that capability that you're trying to get. I need to be with a team of dudes out in the woods, and we need to operate for 72 hours. Cool. You can research all the requirements of that. How much food does that take? I need sleep stuff. We're not building a fire, so I need to be able to have food, you know, things like that. You can kind of figure out all those criteria. and then buy your gear accordingly. And luckily enough, with a lot of the sustainment stuff, you can get there pretty cheap. My fucking hammock is some bullshit I bought off Amazon. The Snug Pack thing was a little expensive, but
the hammock itself doesn't have to be like the Wise Owl ones off of Amazon.
Yeah,
they work
cares?
just as well.
Who cares?
As long as like the higher end ones. Yeah.
You know, so you can get that, and if there's only two of you, you can kind of split that cost. You know, and I'm usually kind of hinky about groups pooling money and stuff, because then what happens when you inevitably, it's like a band. It's like having a band. Oh, we're all going to buy amps. Are you, though? Who gets them when you guys fight? Right? Like, I'm usually a little hinky about that, but with this kind of stuff, even if so say you and your two buddies are trying to figure it, one of you can buy the cocoon, one of you can buy a hammock, one of you can buy the tarp or the poncho or whatever you're going to use. And then if you guys split, you still own that. Now if you're the guy that bought the cocoon, now you just go buy the hammock and the tarp and your set. Yeah.
Right.
You know, so you're not really out anything, and you guys can go test that. If you go do that and you're like, fuck this, there's no way in our environment we can use this. This is stupid. Cool. Go to the next option. You know, and experiment
And
with
sell
that.
shit you're not using.
Oh,
You don't like
I'm
that.
bad about that.
Yeah. But if you're like, hey, this is never going to work in my environment, like I know that for sure, it's not just a user error, sell it. Facebook Marketplace, that shit. But if you live somewhere like, I don't know, fucking Tennessee or something, a lot of the stuff that we're talking about isn't going to be applicable to you. Like it's not going to get down to be, you know, we have negative temperatures here. So know your environment and kind of go accordingly. That's kind of what I got for cold weather. I guess gloves. If you're going to run gloves, I'm a big fan of having a way to retain them around your neck. It's kind of like like a backcountry kind of trick. But if I take my gloves off, I don't want to just fucking ditch them. So I'll run like a piece of 550 cord around and hold my hands out and make sure that I have enough. But that way I can just take my gloves off. You're talking like
insulated, like the big...
Yeah, like the big puffers.
Where you're having to take them off all the time to do shit. Yeah.
So I've got the big puffers, and then I've got the more dexterous ones, like the Outdoor Research or whatever. And those seem to work pretty well. But those are definitely some things that I would get as Gore-Tex, so they don't soak through and you're just fucking miserable, hating your life. Beanies, you can get whatever the fuck you want. Condor beanies work just fine. I wear them all the time. The minus 33 or whatever, they make a good beanie. Get something that works. If you're going to wear a helmet, they make like little helmet beanie pieces at TNVC that you can kind of plug in there, so that it's not completely fucking with the fit of your helmet.
I think Unity makes some kind of...
That's probably what it is. It's a Unity helmet beanie or whatever. But once you get into helmets and night vision, everything just becomes expensive.
Yeah. Because there is kind of a... some of the sustainment stuff is... It's no different than just civilian stuff. Like, oh, I need a tactical beanie. No. You just need a fucking beanie. Same beanie you would wear to go to a party at the beach. You know, like...
Right.
A beanie's a beanie.
Yeah. iPro. Some kind of iPro and EarPro. Especially if you're going out at night.
That's a big one. A lot of people...
Yeah, if you're going out at night and doing night vision stuff, like a lot of guys will forget iPro, but yeah, I've seen sticks in the eyes, and especially where we're at, like a lot of dead limbs that are like right at eyeball height,
dude.
And there's not much you can do for a fucking eye in the field.
No, the talking about the empirical, like test your shit. Like, so I wore iPro because we were doing OP4 for the, what was it, Susk earlier this year. And we got our shit pushed in and had to fucking sprint under nods.
Guadalcanal.
Yeah, sprint under nods away from this place through the trees. And I remember I was wearing iPro because we were doing OP4, so we were using UTMs and shit. So I was wearing iPro for that reason. But as I was running and feeling the branches jabbing me in my iPro, I remember thinking, I should probably wear this all the time.
Yeah. That's kind of like an SOP. Like whenever we step off to do anything in the woods, or just in general, like if we're doing CQB or whatever, just fucking wear iPro. It really isn't that big of a deal. And like I said, there's really nothing you can do for eyes in the field. Like that's going to take some kind of like a ophthalmology surgeon or whatever to fix. So.
And you can get that stuff pretty cheap, Home Depot.
Yeah,
like you can get.
I mean, the iPro, the anti-fog iPro I wear is like $20, I think. Yeah. So it's not very cost prohibitive. The walkers or the Howard lights work just fine for Ear Pro. All right, so clothing. Kind of went over that in a lot of depth. Basically, don't die from the environment. You may die from, enemy fire or whatever, but you will definitely die from exposure. So let's get into kind of some. The dude's got his EDC stuff squared away. He's got the clothing. I guess we can do rifle and then pack. Okay. So rifle. Honestly, you can get an M&P 15 Sport. You can get a PSA, whatever, as an intro gun. But once you actually start running it, you'll start to notice things that you want to improve. So I got my first rifle. I went whole hog on my first rifle. I got a factory Daniel Defense, and I probably use that gun the least because I got the one with the handguard that won't come off unless you have to drill through the barrel or whatever. And I called Daniel Defense, and they're like, "Yeah, just buy another ripper." I was like, "Oh, well, fuck me. I don't want to do that." So, yeah. An arrow lower and then a BCM upper, or whatever you want to do. You can get by with a PSA. It'll probably work just fine. Just make sure that you kind of check the staking and make sure everything's actually put together correct. But
I look at guns are a lot like any other mechanical device. You either got a piece of shit or not, right? Like there's so many variables, there's so many tolerances, there's so many things. Reputable companies will do their best to mitigate that, put one together that works. I don't have a single factory gun. All my guns are fucking tits. Like, they do not malfunction. They do not have. I don't clean them. I don't even talk to them nice. Like, they're just piece of shit fucking tools, and that's how I treat them. And they all work great. But if you get a dud, you get a dud, right? And so you swap it. It doesn't mean you have to spend more money. The funniest moments I've had is watching dudes with Knight's armament, like the shit, like just straight off the gram. Like, this
LMT
thing is just, it's God's gift to guns. Yeah. Gas block walks off.
Yeah.
And I'm just laughing in drunk parts gun.
Right. Yeah, because they didn't check any of that. Meanwhile, the PSA next to them is running just fine.
Well, and you got to run it. Dude bought it, and granted, in that case, it was a new gun, and he was just going out to run it and test it and stuff. But like, a lot of times, people just spend the money and think the box is checked. The box is not fucking checked until you run the tits off that gun. Yeah. And people are like, "Well, my gun's good. I put 500 rounds, dude. That's a weekend." Like,
there need to be a few zeros after that.
Tens of thousands of rounds through it, and then you can be like, all right, it's not a piece of shit,
So, you don't have to go whole hog by like a factory Noveski or anything like that. Noveski is great guns, but get something that'll work for you. And get a normal fucking caliber. This is a topic of hot debate with us lately, but get a normal fucking.
We got
caliber.
One guy that just won't buy fucking guns.
Just won't buy.
He won't buy normal guns. Won't just buy normal guns.
Everything's
got to be weird, and
everything's different. But if you and the boys have decided on 7.62 by 39, awesome. If you and the boys decide on 308, cool. 5.56, awesome. Just fucking standardize.
And if it's just you and there are no boys, and you're like, well, I'm trying to get my shit together so that I'm a
99% of America runs 5.56.
Right. If you're trying to get your shit together so that when you do meet other dudes, you're an asset, not a liability, just aim for the middle. Get a fucking AR and a Glock. A 5.56 AR and a Glock. You'll be fine. You can upgrade again once you go out and run those and start finding the limits. If that gun is holding you back as a shooter, upgrade accordingly. Fun fact, though, spoiler alert, is it's not going to hold you back for a long fucking time if you're just getting started, right? Yeah. It'll be fine for a while.
Yeah. And then like a parts compatibility thing too. Like, I carry like an extra Glock extractor and an extra PCG when we go out. Like, if you've got a weird gun, like, I can't fucking help you, bro.
Yeah.
A 3-second repair is now just, you're fucked.
Yeah.
Like, I hope you brought a knife.
If you're screaming, throw me a mag, and it's some kind of Chechen terrorist gun. Like, I can't help you. Like, I don't have those mags. I didn't bring those.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah. And then, like, think about, like, resupply. Like, if, you know, pick your scenario. If somehow someone is dropping off ammo for you, insert scenario here, you're not like, hey, we need an ammo resupply. Oh, and by the way, we need this random fucking caliber.
Yeah. Imagine you're doing some spicy Tarkov shopping, and you're looking for stuff, and one guy's like, hey, you guys keep an eye out for X, Y, Z weird. No, bro.
I already forgot what you said.
Yeah.
So, I mean, 5.56 is, at the end of the day, a 22. There are much more potent rounds, but, you know, it is America's gun. It is, you know, you can go into any gun owner's house in America, and I'm pretty sure they're going to have one. Just fucking standardize. Stop it. Get some help. After that, you know, a way to aim the gun. Doesn't matter if you go with a red dot, an EOTech, a scope, or an LPVO, whatever you want. Have a way to aim your gun. Irons will do just fine. A sling, a light. Those are really the big things. Like a way to hold the gun to you. And that's something to see shit in the fucking dark.
Yeah. And that's an area that will fuck with you. Like, because you'll do, like, LPVOs will come into hotness and everybody, and then red dots, and then fuck all that. Like, buy it all or buy one of them and just be good at it. Like, it honestly, the difference, a lot of times it's nice to have glass. So if you're going to run a red dot, get a magnifier, have that available. If you're going to run an LPVO, have a way to do passive under nods, assuming you have nods.
So now you got to mount a dot on top.
Yeah, either way you end up, if whether you go red dot, LPVO, whatever, you're going to end up kind of being able to do it all. You're just leaning one direction or another, so don't obsess over that. You don't have to. Nobody has to have a 10.5, you know, with a dot and a maul on it. Like, you don't have to have that. That's a niche that's going a little bit down a rabbit hole for like CQB or whatever. That's my favorite setup, but you don't have to have that. If you're like, well, I've got a PSA and a
Vortex scope
and a
Vortex LPVO.
Yeah, and a decent flashlight that doesn't catch on fire. Like
light.
Yeah. You know, like, okay, that box is checked for you can shoot in the daytime and at nighttime. Can you do it the best at night? No. You need to get nods and get that squared away. You know, but the box is checked. Yeah. Right. You know, so you can move on to the next thing. Well, I don't have a pack. I can't move stuff. Okay. Well, instead of going and buying another AR and having some kind of weird, you know, a different kind of sighting mechanism, get your pack. Get your boots.
Let's touch on cans, because I've resisted cans for a very long time, mostly just because I think it's gay as fuck that I got to pay a tax stamp and I got to wait a year and da.
So gay.
It's ATF is just a bunch of fucking faggots. But so you have more experience with cans than I do. Where do you think those fall into, you know, your whole, you know, this is kind of what I want to get into. At what point do you think they start mattering?
The point I think they start mattering is where you're back to those concentric rings, where you're saying, I need to be able to go offensive and do shit. Right? So it's a few rings out. Like, you don't need a can for, I mean, well, hang on. There is an argument. You know, if you choose to use an AR platform as your home defense for whatever reason, cans are nice because you don't have to, what are you going to do? You bump in the night, you jump up, put on your Howard lights, and then grab your gun and go. You know, it's nice to have a can. Also, fun fact, I shot the whole first half of my life with no ear pro. We didn't even know what ear pro was in the 90s. Like, I don't know when the science was developed on that, but my family, we never, maybe you wore earplugs, maybe you didn't. You know, so you can actually shoot your gun without a can. But for the most part, in this context, I think the can becomes pretty necessary at the point where you're talking about, I don't know if offensive is the criterion, but definitely when you are planning to get in a gunfight and you need a lower signature, right? So, because I've kind of, and this is one random asshole with guns opinion, cans are cool and they're shiny and they're neat and they're sexy, right? And I'm super into them, but having run cans for a long time, and I'm kind of getting to the peak suppressor, like where they're not all that. First of all, they glow. They get hot and they glow. Mm-hmm. That's a fucking problem. They're heavy as shit on the end of your gun. I mean, they're a big thing to contend with just for a lower signature, which is huge. It's kind of like it's like any other stealth enabler. It's absolutely critical. It's like not NDing your white light in the night. Mm-hmm. That's huge until shit goes loud and then nobody gives a fuck and everybody's shining white lights. Like again at Susk, like, have you been in gunfights in the night? Like, that's where you get your empirical data, because and training, yes, it's LARPing. I haven't invaded a third world country for banks, but like I don't have that experience, that, and you ding me for that. But when you're engaging with other people with guns in the night, somebody pops a white light. Also, once stealth is lost, nobody. What are you hiding from? I know where you're at. We're shooting at you, right? And if you've got the light of God, if you've got a light that makes the sun come out in the middle of the night, you're going to use that. And we kind of found that, this mix of going white light and then going dark and moving under nods and shooting under nods until you lose stealth in that position, then going white light. Both teams just kind of organically did that, and we made a note of it. Like, fuck, that was actually kind of smart and actually kind of worked.
Just tip your head up.
Yeah, when you hit some asshole in duels with 1,000 lumens, right? You
with 100,000 candela, he's like, fuck.
Yeah. You've used that. Sure, it gives you away. He already knows where you're at. He's shooting at you. You've used that. You've lost stealth, but you've traded that for the tactical advantage of fucking blinding him, right? So cans are great. They are something you eventually want to get, but I definitely don't put them up at the front. Now, if you're saying I need to be able to patrol with my friends and not get fucked up in the woods against a superior fighting force, you probably want to have a can for that.
Yeah. And I think cans really started to shine for me when I bought nods.
Yeah.
Because I'm all, stealthy stealth until you get this giant fucking fireball coming out of your barrel.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what made me go towards that. I mean, with 5.56, it's quieter, but it's not fucking quiet.
Yeah.
Like, until you start getting like 300 black with the 30 cal can, like, it's not like Hollywood quiet.
That's the other thing. The can doesn't make you invisible. Mm-mm. It degrades your signature to some degree. So that's what, keep in mind, that's what you're getting. I think dudes should get cans, but it's definitely, it's on like the 4th or 5th ring out.
I would rather get nods before I got a can. I mean,
that's what absolutely.
I did. Yeah, I got nods before I got a can.
Absolutely.
Because just because you have nods doesn't mean you're necessarily going to be firing. Like, you could just be observing, and
you might be driving, the woods, navigating,
you could be all sorts of shit.
Yeah,
it's a much higher priority. I'd rather get a PVS 14, and I did get a PVS 14 originally, long before I ever actually got a can.
Yeah, because the can does one thing: it limits your signature. Yeah. Nods does multiple things. First of all, it opens up half of the day to operations.
Right. Well, more than half the day up here in the winter.
Yeah.
Like, it gets dark at like 3.
Yeah.
And it does not get light until about 8 or 9.
Right. So if you're a daywalker, your shift ends at 3. And you
Daywalking foot bitch.
Yeah, you go to ground and pray to God nobody shows up and takes your shit.
Because you can operate for 6 hours out of the day.
Exactly. Right. A can doesn't get you that kind of capability. Yeah. And that ought to always go into the equation too. What capability do I get out of this gadget?
Yeah, I would say get a rifle, get a pack, get all that stuff squared away, get your nods, and then look into a can.
Yeah.
Because, I think current wait times are like 12 months.
Yeah.
And it's like, fuck.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of using credit, but like, that's one of those things that a dude could use credit for. Like, put it on a credit card and then just pay it off. Yeah, you pay it off by the time. $100 a month, $50 a paycheck, or whatever.
I think if you have the money, send it. Get a can, get that in the pipe, and get it as soon as you can. If you
we're like our buddy with 40.
Jesus Christ, yeah, maybe not. mean,
I always got something in the pipe. Yeah, there's just always something cooking.
Hey, God bless you. If you've got enough money to do that, fucking do it. Send it. Buy all the shit.
Yeah.
Buy fucking
I don't even know when they come up as being due anymore. I just get a phone call. I can't keep track.
Yeah, God bless him. God bless him.
Fucking hell.
But
I'll take one in each color, please.
Yeah. If you're a guy who's like, no, I only have X amount of money and I don't have other. The can you can probably push.
I think so.
Push down the line a little bit.
I think so. We can start segueing into gear. So, packs. You're going to need a way to carry shit. This can range from a JanSport bag to an Alice pack to Mystery Ranch, $1,200 packs. You can kind of dabble. I mean, I think for most dudes, like an Alice pack will work great, like a medium or a large Alice pack. They're still readily available. They're relatively cheap. Alice packs you can kind of take off of the frame if it's a medium and make it into a rucksack. If you're just kind of getting into it, I think that's a pretty good way to go. It's just a big, giant cavern that you throw all your shit in. So when I use an Alice pack, I'll do a waterproof liner, and then I'll kind of put my shit in there. So for day packs and stuff, I mean, you can go as cheap as you want with this. Like, I mean, a JanSport will work just fine. A REI bag with a pack cover works just fine. When you start looking at features, I think like features and weight. When you want to start getting features and saving weight, that's when you're going to start paying more. So if you can't afford those yet, you're going to be having a little bit heavier of a pack. It'll still work just fine. For like 24-hour packs, I mean, I've got a couple different ones. The Tactical Tailor little assault pack works great. I know you like was it Yodi? Yoked?
The Eagle. I don't know how I say it, Yodi.
Yodi, Yote, whatever. Because of the clamshell, you can shove a helmet back there with nods. It works great. For me, it's too small because I usually have to carry like a bigger first aid kit and shit like that. So I have one. It's not my favorite. I prefer. I really like Hill People gear. I think I have an Lindy, and that holds all sorts of stuff. You can get a little beaver tail attachment that goes on there to hold your helmet. Yeah, all sorts of different packs. Kind of figure out what works for you, what your budget's at, and like I said, just get a pack cover, like a multicam or whatever kind of color fits in your area. Pack cover, and that'll fit over a JanSport, an REI bag, an Osprey bag, whatever.
The packs kind of fall into the same category like clothing. You can use a cheap bag. You just need something to go over your shoulders. It's not going to be as comfortable. It's going to be anything that's weight bearing, anything that's holding weight to your body. The design and materials are going to have more of a kind of like the pants, like we had the discussion on the pants. Those need to function more than a shirt does. A shirt just needs to hang there and keep my titties safe, right?
Yeah.
The pants need to move and let me do some. The pack kind of needs to do that too. I have cheap packs that are not comfortable, and I fucking hate them. But I often wonder if I only hate them because I know the glory of like the Arc'teryx 30 Assault 30. Like that thing is just like baby Jesus, just like.
And if you didn't know that,
if I didn't know that,
I mean, like when I wear your pack, I'm like, oh my god, this is wonderful. But
yeah. So that
you need something to put shit in.
You need something to put shit in. I would advise. So one regret I do have is I bought a lot of my nicest packs in multicam. I wish I would have bought them in just solid like civvy-ish colors because you walking around with a fucking multicam pack.
Everyone knows what's up.
Right. Whereas if you have civvy colors and it's like, well, but I need camouflage because I need to be a ghost in the forest. Cool. Pack cover. It's like $20 off Amazon. Like you can solve that problem with a cheaper thing and have a pack that is more flexible.
Yeah.
For me, I like the Yodi. It's basically just like a chest rig for my back. Like it carries a little bit of stuff, carries it at weight. Everybody really liked when I shoved my helmet in it with the thing. I honestly don't give a shit about that because most of the time if I'm going to have the weight of the helmet, I want to have the protection that it gives me. Like, I did that on that rep, and then I thought about it afterward. I was like, it's kind of dumb to have now your head,
have it and not wear it.
Yeah, now your head, there is a limit.
Ballistic.
There is a is a limit. Like, your neck needs a fucking rest. There are times where you got to get that fucking thing off because you're dying, right? But if you're gonna carry the weight around, it ought to be doing its job. Right. You know, so I like the Yodi partly because I have it and it functions and neat. But my favorite pack for being out in the woods for 2 or 3 days and doing shit is that Arc'teryx Assault 30, just because it's so fucking comfortable.
I don't know what witchcraft goes into that bag, but it does not feel like you have weight in there.
Yeah, I don't either. And that's the thing. And that's kind of what you're paying for.
That's that 5% that you're paying for.
Yeah, that's that 5%.
A Jansport will carry the same amount of shit.
Well, I have that Kelty 40, or Kelty 50. It's a Kelty 50. That thing holds a lot of shit. I like that pack. It's a well-built pack. It just, I don't know, maybe I don't have it adjusted right or something. It just doesn't fit my body that well. Yeah. And so when I wear it, I'm uncomfortable. After a few hours, I'm in pain. So now I'm trying to do stuff in pain, uncomfortable, situating it. You know, it's just, and it doesn't matter, just be tougher. Well, it doesn't matter. Even if you were tougher, that guy is still going to be, a tougher guy is still going to be better if he's comfortable, right? Like, that doesn't really matter. But you can start with basic fucking school bags. Go out and try it, because you may stumble on I have some other, it's a LBT 3DAP. It's just it's like a kid's backpack.
Yeah, it's a Cordura version of...
Yeah, there's nothing special. I mean, it looks neat, it's cool, it's, I don't know, it's a 30-liter backpack. Nothing special. Comfy as fuck. That thing was like $120. It's not as comfortable as the Arc'teryx, but pretty fucking close.
Yeah, and then you start getting into like frame versus no frame or internal frame. I mean, for most dudes starting out, I would say a medium Alice. You can wear it as a rucksack. You can wear it on the frame.
Yep.
I have one where we're going to go out and do like multi-day things, like, 3-4 days. I'll take an Alice pack.
And that's something you can do your research. And when you see serious people like Fred from Spiritus, anybody who's talking about this, the Alice pack will be in the conversation. They'll be like, it fucking works.
Who was it? Grunt Perspective?
Yeah,
he did some solid shit with a medium Alice, and I was like, that's where I took a lot of ideas from, and I was like, because this was kind of gay before I got it, but if you do these little tweaks here and there, and it's like super cheap tweaks to do, and I was like, like a bungee cord around to keep the 2-liter canteens on either side, from sloshing around, and I was like, I have bungee cords, I can do that.
It's one of those things. If you see multiple smart people with experience,
credibility, and credibility,
recommending it, maybe start there.
Right.
Test that. If it works for you, great. If not, move on to the next thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've got all of them. They're all kind of in the mix. Hiking backpacks, you're going to get, a lightweight pack, like an REI pack or an Osprey or something. You'll save on weight for sure. It's just not going to be as durable. Throw on a pack cover, you'll be fine. Most dudes have a backpack of some sort, and it'll work. The backpack I take to work, I mean, it's a fucking backpack.
Yeah.
It'll work. So that kind of does it for, then we can kind of start segueing into ways to carry ammo and shit.
Ammo and shit.
Ammo and shit. Let's see. So I guess we'll start the cheaper route, chest rigs or some kind of belt kit. Belt kit is not cheap, so I don't know why I said that. You can get the...
It can be.
Velocity. I mean, I tried to do it on the cheap, and it was still like $700.
I mean, you can buy a high-speed gear just over the battle belt and throw suspenders on it.
That's what I got.
Oh, you hit 700, huh?
Yeah, so the high-speed gear plus an inner belt, like an SOE inner belt, and then I got, Velocity inner belt, but then, so I've got 3 spud pouches on it. That's $150.
The pouches start to add up.
The pouches are what add up, because you're now putting a butt pack on there, you're putting GP pouches,
you can go surplus on pouches.
You could, yeah. So, I mean, you could get into belt kit, maybe $200-$300, which, I don't know. You're already going to have a backpack. You can just buy a TAPS rig for $75 at Venture Surplus and call it good.
Here's my thing on
if you're, I'll preface that with, if you're not a specialty role, like a medic, and you need a med bag, I would say chest rig and backpack all day.
Yeah. Here's my thing on the, because this may be the biggest rabbit hole gear wise, like of buying shit. I'm just thinking of the bins of shit in my garage. Like most of it is in this category, right?
All of the contents on Spirituses, Pharaohs, and
nice catalog. Christ. Nice catalog, bitch. Give me 3 of each in all the colors. Because this is a lot of the weight, and this is the weight that you have to engage with. Like with a backpack, I need to have weight. I don't have to fuck with that. I put all that stuff in. It's in the backpack until I stop and pull the backpack off and am fucking with it, right? I don't have to reload from it. I don't have to, where's my compass? I need a nav, like your fighting load and your like mission load is the one that you have to engage with the most. So where those pouches are, what type of pouches they are, all that stuff matters a lot more, right? So my advice with going through a lot of, and this is not just my advice, this is advice from the people who instruct us, the kind of higher ups, the guys with a lot more experience that
different backgrounds
teach us. Yeah. You're going to need armor. If your likelihood of getting in a gunfight is going to be elevated, you need to have armor, right? So
if you have a rifle for a reason, not just like you're going around the homestead or whatever in a quad.
Yeah.
Like, and there's dudes out there that you have the rifle for, I say armor.
Yeah, because people are going to shoot you. They're going to see that and want to shoot you about it.
And I'll plug that into like the whole guerrilla medicine concept. Like, if you do not have that level 1 trauma center to go to, it's like preventative, right? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Like, if you can just stop the round and not have to figure out the whole logistics of getting this dude to care, just fucking do it.
Yeah. So you're going to need armor, which means you're going to need a thing to hold the armor to you. And here's where it gets tricky. So people are starting to realize that the GWAT kind of warped everybody to, you're going to...
War tourism.
Yeah, where you're going to fly in on a helicopter, do a thing, get back on the helicopter, go home, right? Like, it's sexy. Those are tier 1. Those are the best dudes, right? That's who we all look up to. Those are the pros. We don't all look up to, but, those are the guys doing the thing, right? That we're all just jerking off about, right? So you look at what they're doing, and you're like, oh shit, I need a fucking AVS with 400 pounds of shit on it, right? And where do I put my ISLID?
With 3 mags.
Yeah, most of that doesn't apply to most of the scenarios that we're going to have. So for a new dude starting down that road, I would advise getting a relatively low profile slickable plate carrier, which most are nowadays, whether it's an LV119,
the Slickster
Baby
with
Jesus
Ferretus.
InBav.
Yeah, the InBav.
If you can get an InBav, good God, do it.
Yeah.
It's like lingerie. It's like bulletproof lingerie.
And I'll make the point here, and I'm happy to do so. Like, we're fortunate enough to have dudes that have pretty much everything. And like, we've tried it all on.
You can fuck with it.
Like, I've got Slicksters, LV119s. Like, when I put on the InBav, Jesus was hugging me. Yeah. So that is, in my opinion, the most comfortable plate carrier I have ever worn in my life. Hands down. Like, I can, if you're, instead of, so the way I did it is I got some fucking 511 plate carrier, and then I got like a Warrior Assault Systems plate carrier, and then I got a Slickster, and then I got like 2 or 3 LV119s, and then I finally got an InBav. And I'm like,
that's literally the pipeline.
Yeah, I could have just saved all of this money and saved for an LV119, which was only like, I don't know, the fucking 511 is probably like $150 now, if not more. Just save a little bit more and buy an InBav.
Yeah,
it's not as durable, I think.
It's not as durable, and it's hard to get.
It's hard to get. It's not as durable because it was issued to dudes who would go out, hit a target, come back, throw it away, and just go to supply and get another one.
Yeah.
Like, they had Uncle Daddy backing them. So if, I think my Slickster is more comfortable than an LV119, and I think it's a little bit more durable than the InBav.
The comfort, get it, if you can get an InBav and, great, do it. But bottom line, get something that is relatively slickable. The thing that's nice about now the InBav, I have an InBav and then the Airlight chest rig that will plug into it just like any other. It plugs into it just like a
well, with the InBav it's a little bit different, right? You have to get that adapter. Unless you're using a Crye product.
Yeah, it's a different distance, but like the Airlight fits perfectly because the Airlight is sized for that. So yes, if you're going to use like Spiritus or something on an
if you're going to use a Spiritus placard, you're going to need an adapter.
You get an adapter. Yeah. Which is easy to do. You can do that. But the brand and all that shit isn't as important as the strategy. So we're not talking about the tactic here of which to buy and stuff. We're talking about the strategy. Get a slickable plate carrier, meaning something that can be slick, right? Something that can be, not something with a bunch of shit. Like an AVS can't really, well, AVS can get pretty slick, but what the fuck ever.
Something you can wear under a large hoodie.
Right. To have the option of separating your load from your armor. Mm-hmm. So bang for the buck. If you have, so for example, with my MBAV, I have my MBAV, that's my armor. I can have that on or not have that on. Then my Airlight chest rig is my load. That's got my magazines, all my shit, my admin, all that stuff. So if I'm in a situation where I need my armor but not that load, say low vis in a vehicle, I need to look like a normal person for the waist up inside this vehicle so I can get to a fucking checkpoint, then that works for me because I can unclip that Airlight, stow that in the floorboard, throw a extra large cover shirt over my MBAV, and be pretty good from a distance. You've got armor on, and if you're a barrel-chested freedom fighter like me, you're gonna tell. You can see that there's fucking armor under that shirt.
You'll be able to tell.
Yeah, close. It's not. But in a vehicle, driving, that's some asshole in a flannel. Get out of here, right? Now, that's I think the starting point. If you're just a dude that's like, man, I got to check this box, do that. Don't try and build out a direct action.
Right. Buy something that's scalable.
Yeah, buy something that's which luckily most brands already do that. So Spiritus, I was joking. I'm a Crye bitch. Like everybody makes fun of me. I have all the Crye shit. I love Crye. It's fucking great. I love the fucking MBAV. It's goddamn it. But I also have some sort of disease that makes me switch. It's like it's like how the poles shift on a planet or some shit. Where like my spirititis will flare up, and I'll be like, "Oh God,
no, I can't do it." So like, I mean, I ran that LV119. I ran the LV119 for years, and my back would always hurt.
Yeah, it's dumb. It's dumb how it goes straight.
It looks like Adam's like it looks like a T-shirt, and I'm like, bro, I don't.
People got traps.
I'm not Starvin' Marvin. I don't look like a fucking T-shirt.
My
like,
shoulders aren't flat. Yeah, I got fucking traps like a man.
And then Crye is designed by like an actual fashion designer who understands, anatomy.
And that's why it is the embrace of the Lord Jesus Christ.
But
it doesn't matter. It's a disease. I'm not saying everybody has to have this. Every once in a while, the poles flip, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going back to my Spiritus shit. And I go back to my Spiritus shit. The nice thing about Spiritus and most companies nowadays is they are designed from the ground up with that. If they would just angle the fucking shoulder straps, it would be great. But they're designed with that from the ground up with that modularity. And I know that's a buzzword, but it is actually a thing. You can build an LV119 or a Slickster or an MBAV, whatever the fuck, I don't care, whatever it fits, to where you can have your armor and then you can put your load on top of that.
Like over it, like a chest rig going over it, like a TAPS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then you're flexible, because then you don't have to buy, if you're a dipshit like me and you're just going to buy it all anyway, I can have my low-vis armor, and then I can have my kind of DA build, where if I'm leaving somewhere and I'm like, I'm going to get in a gunfight.
But if you need one, in my opinion, I like the Slickster, because I can scale that up.
Yeah.
I think it does the best of kind of both of those worlds, but my recommendation would be don't go out and get, like a GWAT looking plate carrier with tons of molly all over it, because it's going to be a pain in the ass to try and put a jacket over that. So like, I mean, real world example, like when COVID was rocking and rolling, like dudes were wearing like full on, like the first couple of weeks, full on fucking gas masks at Costco. And I was like, shit's a little weird. I'm going to bring, 2-3 Glock mags and a Glock. And I decided to wear armor, because I'm like, people are acting a little squirrely. Maybe this is something I should be doing. So I put in some soft armor in the Faro Slickster and threw on an oversized Carhartt and went to Costco. And nobody's the fucking wiser. So in my opinion, I think that the Faro Slickster is kind of the best of both worlds. You can click in excuse me, you can click in placards, like the Spiritus placards or whoever your favorite brand is, or you can dump those, and then you can run a chest rig over it. So that's kind of my take on where I would point you to. But I think it sounds like we've both made the mistake of, going through 2 or 3 different iterations of plate carrier before we find something that works, and then chasing that 5% kind of thereafter. So getting into what goes into the plate carrier. I think the Hesco makes good armor. Save your money. Don't go out and buy steel plates. I mean, I don't know if you did. I went out and bought the AR-500.
Hell yeah, bro! I got my steelies.
The AR-500, and because at the time this is what James Yeager recommended back in like 2014, and
I'll throw that shit on HVI. Like
yeah, if it's not me,
bro.
Yeah, if it's not me or my wife or my family, I'll throw that on you.
Yeah.
I mean, I still have them. I have like 3 or 4 sets. And I just leave them in places, and I'm like,
I might be stacking that shit in my door. I don't know.
Yeah, will it stop around? It probably will.
Yeah, I just don't want to be around it when it does.
Yeah, I'm gonna get fragged if I have
and
it.
honestly, I don't know how much of that. Like, I've seen it both ways. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
The bottom line is, if you're gonna check that box, this is instead of a 95% solution, this is more like a 25% solution. Like, don't check the box with 25%. Like.
Will it stop rounds? Yes. Will Spall probably go up and cut your carotid or something?
Yeah,
it's a high likelihood.
Stop is the key word. Like, will they go into your chest? No. Will they go somewhere else? I don't know.
Maybe yes, maybe no. Sometimes yes. Good, sometimes shit.
Exactly.
Who knows?
That's the thing about ceramic, and so they actually catch it. I'm like, no.
I mean, you can get Spall from ceramic. It is possible. It's just less likely.
Yeah.
And especially with like the Hescos. Like the L210s, like why would you buy steel when you could buy a Hesco L210?
Yeah, but I'll say that, and this is probably not a popular opinion. If you got $10 and you got to go to war tonight, sure, get you some steelies. It's better than nothing, right? Short of that situation, buy fucking regular armor. Like just do it. It's a life-saving thing. It's like buying discount tourniquets. Guys, I got 100 tourniquets for $13
on Amazon.
Yeah, you're gonna fucking die. You just save that money and get one right one. Right.
Like, yeah. I'm a fan of Hesco. I know dudes like to buy whatever. I mean, I know guys that have acquired some of the USGI ones. So, whatever works.
I like Hesco because they're available. They're around.
They're available. They're not overpriced.
There was some kind of kerfluffle about some didn't pass and stuff like that. But these companies that have ginormous government contracts like EOTech and they're producing, like, none of that means anything to me until you show me the percentage of total output that failed. Just because some company has never had one fail, but they make 2% of the total output of another
like a 1% failure rate of a company that puts out 100 plates is much different than a company that puts out 1 million plates.
Exactly.
Right. So I'm a big fan of the Hescos.
I run Hescos and I haven't been shot yet. I'll just say that.
Kind of figure out what your threat matrix is with those. LT10s are usually fine for like urban areas, cities, but once you start getting out into the country, your kind of threat profile changes. Like a pissed off farmer with a 30-06 is gonna fucking wreck you in L210s. So kind of understand where you're going with it and buy them accordingly. But I think Hesco seems to be a pretty reputable company. I'm also a fan of buying soft armor as well. I know OP Tactical has like the Velocity soft armor. Because you can, like I said earlier, like I ran soft armor in a Slickster when I went to Costco during the whole COVID thing, and nobody's the wiser. So I'm a fan of having some soft armor. Those are usually pretty cheap.
Yeah.
I mean, cheap-ish. For
cheap
armor.
Compared to plates.
Yeah, cheap compared to the ER bill. So
fair.
And I mean, if you want to do a cost analysis, I mean, just imagine what a fucking surgery is going to cost you.
Yeah.
Versus, I could have spent, whatever on plates.
Yeah, life-saving stuff. I mean, things where the quality, if your crotch blows out on your pants, you're not going to die most of the time.
If your plates weird pistol that malfunctions when you need it to, instead of just buying a fucking Glock, like Gen 3 Glock,
Yeah, and if your plates are pretend, then you're gonna fucking die.
The GVRS ones with 30% of it was just fucking styrofoam. I wish I had bought a pair of those. I really do, just so I could have that moment in time.
In a shadow box. Yeah, I mean, there's certain things. Plates are cheap.
Those down so fast.
Plates are cheap enough. Like, you can get the 210s. The 210s cover a large. And remember, all of this stuff is you're talking about percentages of mitigation. There is no, well, if I buy this, I'm fine. No. You're talking about percentages. So even body armor, it doesn't cover your whole ass body. What if they shoot an inch to the left of your nipple? It's, if it's the right angle, it's still going into the bits you're trying to protect, right? So it's all percentages of mitigation. So L210s are relatively available, and they're not horribly expensive. It's a good place to start.
Yeah, and you can also buy the side plates, like the L210.
I always run side plates.
Rating of side plates. So, because, I mean, the real trauma that occurs with a GSW is when it goes side to side. That's when it's cutting through all those organs, and you're just, you're going to get to the trauma center, and they're like, they're fucked. R.I.P.
Which lung? Both.
Yeah, yes. Call the chaplain.
Yeah.
So,
that's kind of a category. It's almost like we're kind of highlighting a couple of different categories. Like, some categories are fungible, some are like kind of hardline, like nods.
Life-saving equipment, probably worth spending your money on. Like, good quality pistols, good quality rifles. Would I want to go to war with the PSA? No, but what is the likelihood of you actually using that?
Yeah,
but if you actually need it,
there's kind of the percentage.
Probably going to wish that you had some.
Yeah, there's kind of the percentage game, right? Like a PSA is like a 95% solution. Like, it shoots a bullet pretty much where you tell it to.
It's like Anchorman. 60% of the time, it works every time.
Yeah, I mean, but for real, like guns are pretty. Like, I don't know what kind of gypsy magic HK sprinkles on a $3,000 AR. When I ordered parts on the internet and put it together myself from YouTube, and my gun groups like a fucking champ and has run forever and has survived untold numbers of, user errors and stupid mistakes and things like it just, they don't have the points on the board to justify it, right? With armor and things like that, it's something, first of all, you can't test it. You don't go out, like with my gun, I can go out and shoot it and be like, oh, this thing it fucks. With my armor, I can't be like, yeah, my boy shot me all afternoon and I'm totally alive. Like, you can't test it. You kind of have to rely on the industry to tell you.
Right.
So I don't know. Those kind of things, you just kind of have to spend the fucking money and get it. And armor is really only for, you only need that for scenarios where you're probably getting in a gunfight or you're going to start a gunfight. You know what I mean? Like, short of that, you can get other stuff. But having that mindset of having your armor be able to be separate from your load is good. If you start there, then you've checked all your boxes. You can yoke up and put your 12 mags in your chest rig and go to town, or you can strip down and just be defensive.
I mean, you and I have been in, like, scenarios where, like, the likelihood that we might actually get shot is there. And it's a warm, fuzzy feeling knowing, like, I actually have armor that I know will work.
I have a shirt for that.
Got the shirt. Helmets. Dudes that have been there and done that, like Fred and whatnot, preach ballistic all the time. I don't know if I'm going to wear a ballistic all the time, but
I think Fred fucked a lot of people up.
I know the thing that, like, I look up with the most is usually my head when I poke it above a fucking log or whatever. So
there's a few times where people say shit and I'm like, oh, goddamn. I didn't even, and I think Fred fucked a lot of people up with that. I mean, that's where I saw it. That might be like a universally understood thing among people who know what the fuck they're doing. But Fred from Spiritus was the first one to say it, and I was like, oh, no shit. Because I always looked at it like, well, tier 1 threat, I'm going to wear my armor. And then if it's really bad, I'm going to wear my helmet. And it's like, no, bro. Like, your head, like, if you're in the woods and running around and doing stuff,
you're not looking with your head.
You're fucking sticking your head out, right? And you got to have here's the other problem. You got to have you pretty much got to wear your helmet if you're gonna do nods.
Mm-hmm.
Tracer Tactical has that cool thing. People have cool
Captain
things.
Price mod.
Yeah, there's some sick shit, and that might get to the point where
The nightcap looking like Cartman.
I look like Cartman because of my giant fucking head, but like I can do that if I put a beanie on. It's fine, or a hood, Otherwise, it's not great. That might become a moot point where like that's no longer the case. But if I gotta bring that fucking thing for my nods anyway, again, if I'm carrying the weight of it, why not put it on my head to have, to have the... Because it's true, in the woods, my thing is in thick woods, like if I'm going to get in a gunfight, I've got trees, I've got tons of cover, like no shit cover. So my armor, my body armor is less important. Not important, but less important because I'm going to be moving from cover to cover. Except my fucking head. That's poking out with everything. Even in like an LPO, like if I'm observing something, my fucking head is sticking out.
Covered up to your nose. Your head is still halfway above the fucking lip.
There's a lot of brain up there. Well, there's some brain up there.
So, if you're going to get a helmet, get a reputable brand. I don't know if I'd go out and get one of the hard-headed veterans or whatever, the knockoff helmets.
And try that shit on.
Yeah, try it on, because like my head I thought was normal sized, and apparently it's a large/extra large. So try your buddies on. But like, Mitch helmets still work just fine.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have to be, some super high speed operator helmet.
Yeah.
If it's ballistic, good to go. We touched a little bit on ways to carry ammo. In my opinion, the days of 3 mags up front and that's it are done. Looking at, global threats and kind of what they're preparing for, it seems like, that's kind of gone the way of the dodo. I don't have...
It depends on what you're doing.
Like Blackhawks on station with Apaches, and then they're just going to kick out more ammo if I need it.
It depends on what you're doing, because I tend to look at it like there's like cop military, right? Because like if you're
faggot in the woods,
right? Like so if we're doing a thing that's like urban, where maybe we're doing surveillance on something where we're not there to get in a gunfight. We're not there to get in a gunfight at all.
Right. Then that's different.
Yeah, but we're bringing the gear in. We might get in a gunfight, and we might need to have rifles. So we bring the shit for that. That's going to be downgraded. I'm probably not going to bring 12 fucking mags. Well, if I do bring 12 mags, they don't need to be quick access. They maybe are in a speedball situation, like they're in some kind of like a satchel or a bandolier or something that's ready to go, but not on my kit. There's also the visibility. Like when I wear my full "fuck you, I'm going to war" kit, that shit's big, and there's no flannel big enough to make that look right. So having that capability is good, but again, that's where if your armor and your load are separate, where you can
adjust. Yeah, like a 3 mag shingle underneath your triple XL, flannel or whatever. Cool.
Yeah.
But like going out in the woods, like this kind of context, like dudes need to understand. Like for the most part, you're on your fucking own.
Yeah.
Unless you got a bunch of fucking buddies, then then you and your buddies are on your fucking own for the most part. Unless you got like resupply coming, you commandeered some Blackhawks or whatever. And what is it usually, like a mag a minute?
Something like
is
that.
Roughly what they say. So that's kind of why I've gone towards more of the, like 10 mags as standard loadout out in the woods. Because I'm my fucking resupply.
Yeah.
Like,
you got to be able to, when it comes to mags, like, okay, how many mags am I going to carry? Let me ask you this. How many mags does it take you to get the fuck away from whoever it is that's trying to kill you?
I don't know. Well, you probably should have more than fucking what you think.
If the answer to that is I don't know, then the next question is how many mags can you physically fucking carry?
Right. And there's old GWAT vets like the fucking Scully dude from the SOE podcast and stuff. Mm-hmm. That motherfucker carried like 16 mags and still went Winchester.
Yeah.
And he's like, I was standing there with a fucking piece of shit M9, and I would have much rather just had another 5.56 mag than this fucking piece of shit. I'm like, I might as well just throw rocks at him at this point.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I think the 10 mags, usually like 8 on a chest rig, 1 on the gun, and one or 2, maybe even 3 in a bandolier.
Well, and that's also where that flexibility. So with Spiritus, Pharaoh, You know, all these pretty much, and all the little guys like Defense Mechanism, Tracer, like all these other companies that are kind of fueling the industry. You have that option. So you can, for example, with the Spiritus, you can run just a 5.56 placard, just that little, it's like 3 little socks that you can just put mags in. It's nothing.
Elastic pouches.
Yeah, that with the stretchy cummerbund that's got the fucking mag pouches in it. That's low vis as fuck. You can get 3, 4, 5 comms, maybe a smoke or a bang or something. You can get a pretty good load on that, just real slick, right? So that's your initial. You basically you have to buy some kind of cummerbund to keep the armor on. So you buy the stretchy one that holds a little bit of ammo. You get the placard. That thing's probably like $50 or $60. Box is kind of checked. Now maybe you build out a chest rig. Doesn't have to be Spiritus. Could be anybody. Could be Haley. Any kind of chest rig that, like, all right, if shit gets real fucky, I throw this thing on. And you can just throw it on. It doesn't have to integrate the whole, well, does this clip into my thing and does this fit with it? That you can just throw the chest rig over your arm.
Right, you loosen the straps a little bit and throw it over.
Yeah.
So
then you have small fight, big fight. That's a lot of capability.
Yeah. I mean, you can throw taps over any of those chest rigs and be more than good to go. I got the T-Rex quad flap chest rig recently. I really like that.
That's pretty dope.
Yeah. I think the 3 molly slots on either side is kind of the game changer. And
they did a good job.
The internal radio pockets.
Yeah. They did a good job at looking at all the features that are out there and
scalping
being like,
all of the good concepts.
It's kind of the all-star feature. Like, this is all the good stuff.
Meanwhile,
which is smart.
That's like, what the fuck?
Well, that's what you should do. I mean, that's literally what innovation is. You know.
Yeah. So I like that one. It's kind of spendy. Taps will do the same fucking thing.
How much was that?
With the 2 GP pouches, like 300, maybe 330. But yeah, I mean, a taps will do the same thing. $75, some Venture surplus pouches. I wouldn't say that this is an area that you absolutely need to spend the coin on.
Do the taps? So I bought a taps just because it was going around. And I was like, "What the fuck is this?" And I got it, and I'm like, I can't hate it. I'm like, okay, it's a bunch of mag pouches with some molly on the front of it. Guess what? That's exactly what I want.
Yeah, yeah. So spend your armor on like a comfy carrier and plates, and then get like a taps and a 3 meg shingle or something.
Yeah,
that you can swap out.
So you can go from low vis, please don't fuck with me, to I'm bringing the fight to you. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. Going into that stuff, we kind of talked on some sleep stuff, wet weather stuff, have a way to navigate, map and compass, know how to do it, GPS if you want to get into that. Garmin makes good stuff. Stoves if you're kind of going out there LARPing, having a good time. You can get the what are they called? Espit. The Espit stoves, those work great and they're dirt cheap. They're fuel tabs, so you don't have to worry about the fuel mixture canisters. Food. Have some kind of like non-perishable food in your pack. If this is like you're into the whole Minuteman concept, you want to grab your bag and go. Doesn't have to be MREs. It can be, like Cliff Bars, the tuna packets.
It's good to have a mix. Like if we're talking like 24 to 72 hour sustainment, it's good to have a, like, I personally, what I carry, what works for me, and everybody's different. Metabolisms are different. When we're doing stuff, I can't eat much. I don't know what it is. Maybe I got a fucking disease, but
and I'm the opposite. I have to eat.
When I'm switched the fuck on, I'm like, I just want cocaine. Like I've never done cocaine, but it looks like what I need.
But I'm a huge fan of like snackies, like little licky chewies, snack food as we're going. The unwrapped Starbursts, those are fucking clutch.
Oh yeah, just
Who
the
was
grab
it?
bag.
Yeah,
it was me.
Who was? No. I was talking about like the glucose spike. Jared.
Oh, from OTG.
Yeah, Jared with OTG. He's always got like little fucking gummy bears or something like that in his little admin pouch. But yeah, I don't know. I need food, so I have a freeze dryer. So I usually freeze dry all of my own shit. So it's like Mountain House, but what I want. But like Mountain House meals, MREs, what are they? The XMREs.
Yeah, from OP
Tactical. Yeah, they're like better tasting, more features with them, I guess. But honestly, you could just fucking beef jerky and some Skittles.
I like, and again, so if we're talking to the new guy, like you have your theoretical, you can look up like how many calories does a dude your age, whatever, need, like, okay. Mm-hmm. And then empirical, like, cool. Is that what you need when you go out and run around and do shit?
Because for me, what some random dude on the internet needs.
Yeah, or the bell curve. Like, on some things, pant size, bell curve. I'm good. If it says it'll fit me, it'll fucking fit me. Metabolism shit? No, definitely not. And I don't know, there's probably some psychological thing too. Like, when I'm on, I'm just not thinking about food. I'm like really target focused. Like, we're doing this thing. This is what's going on. I like one meal per day. So I'll take one MRE per day. And I usually can't eat that until like later in the day. I mean, I could if I had to. If it was like, you have to eat fucking now.
Do you field strip yours?
Or yeah, just because the internet said to do that, and I was like, that's fucking smart. And it is a lot smaller, so I can get 2 MREs down to the size.
Yeah, I keep 2 entrees in one pack with the heaters if I have time, and a spoon taped on there.
Yeah, because the nice thing about the MREs, you don't have to do shit. I can eat that cold. I can get those, because what I need from that equipment is the calories.
Right.
The flavor, the texture, all that stuff.
Everything
is all
else is just extra.
Yeah. I need those calories, so I can get those calories regardless. Other than that, snacks like the Licky Chewies. Like I really like for whatever reason, the hypoglycemic shit that's like the honey waffle thing.
Oh, yeah.
Like for athletes, like for, you're running 100-mile, fucking run. I'm like, no.
No, they're delicious.
But it's delicious, right? Because it gives me that little boost. Because Jared's right. Like, that little boost of sugar can kind of snap you out of your funk, get you back on task, and you need that quick energy when you're... Because, like my Garmin will tell me, like, days when we're doing shit, those are like 6,000-7,000 calorie days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not like, whatever the WHO recommends or whatever. Right. It's like 2,000 calories a day, and I'm like,
you're off grid, and I think when you go off grid like that, it's very specific, because some dudes need to eat, and some dudes need to not. Like, I do better when I don't.
Yeah. So just kind of figuring out what you need.
Yeah. And that's the empirical side. Like, so if somebody tells you, well, you have to carry 6 MREs in your pack. Do you? Go test that. Bring 6 MREs and see how many you eat. Oh, I only ate 2 of them. Cool. That's what you need to take.
Right. And maybe an extra if you end up out there a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Before we start getting into kind of the force multiplier stuff, we can touch on like pistol belts. We already know that we're not big fans of pistol belts when we're in the field. But if it's like CQB training or something like that, or going to the range, then I'll throw on a pistol belt. I would say that like your armor, your load-bearing equipment, stuff like that comes much before a pistol belt, because you can just get like a Kydex holster and throw a Glock in it, and congratulations, you have a pistol belt. So,
I'm in a weird place with pistol belts right now, like because I've gone the full gamut. Like in the beginning, I think my first war build that I took to the LARP in was Snake Eater Tactical. They actually make a pretty cool belt. But I bought that, and it's got the whole thing, and it's got like all these different layers and shit. And I'm like, oh, this is sick. I got different layers, and it's all Velcro. And over the years, like I really like Cry MRB. That modular riggers belt, and it is so not,
which really isn't that expensive. It isn't that expensive.
It's not bad
compared to the other pistol belts out there.
Yeah,
but you've kind of turned me on to the concept of the MRB. It seems like it can do a lot. Like it's got that inner belt you can plug into. You can plug it over like some wet weather gear. I think it's a cool concept.
I'm in a weird place because like I keep looking at the gun belt, and I'm like, why are you fucking here?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, unless it's like CQB kind of stuff.
Well, it's this thing like I've never really liked the first line, second line thing. When I first heard that, I was like, oh, fuck, that's smart. That's how it is. My belt isn't my first line. Like, if shit's popping off, I'm not grabbing a 9mm and a fancy belt. Like, I'm grabbing armor and a fucking rifle. Like, that's my, So I get, like, I can use that, like, rubric or whatever, but it's not really I don't know. I go back and forth. I like the MRB. I've liked every belt I've had. And I keep buying them. I have a Ronin, I have the MRB, I have all this stuff. Like, it doesn't fucking matter. Like, I told myself I wasn't going to order the Wojtek, the Bear Solutions belt. It's like $220. I was like, I'm not buying that. That's overpriced. I bought it.
Yeah.
I mean, my buddy Whiskey is with Bear Solutions, and I like Drew a lot. Like, he pretty much taught me everything I know about guns, about shooting guns. So, I need support, but like, I'm like, why? It's a fucking belt. Like, I can do the belt job with my leather belt that I wear every fucking day.
Like a leather belt, a Kydex holster, and like some pistol mags. Yeah. And you're good.
Like, I don't even like the fast. I don't even like the you got your speed reload on your belt. Do you? Like, why am I in a rifle fight without armor? Like, what the fuck happened that a gunfight popped off and I'm like, oh shit, grab my belt and my little fucking 9mm. Let's do. Oh, and my rifle. And like, it just doesn't groove with me, but I still buy the belt. Because it seems important.
The internet tells me it's important.
It seems like this belt will hold. So I've gone from having a big giant fucking belt to basically a couple of pistol mags and a rifle mag.
Yeah, and I know everybody runs like 2 pistol mags and 1 rifle mag. Like, if you're a cop, that makes sense to me, but I've never understood that for a regular dude. So I'm more of a 1 pistol mag, 1 or 2 rifle mag kind of guy.
Just a pouch.
Yeah, just a pouch. It is perfect. Like, I'll give Spiritus that. Like, there's companies that have ripped it off. The concept is great. I mean, you can shove like a smoke and a bang in the pouch of a pistol and a rifle mag. So
yeah, and you can slide that over your regular everyday belt.
Yeah,
like, literally, I can just slide just a pouch on. I can slide my Safariland on. Gun belt.
Right, and that's really all you need.
Yeah.
I mean, you can get into the Darcy strap kind of thing on the plate carrier that plugs into the carabiner on your belt, but that's kind of a nice to have. So
yeah, I just
pistol belts low on the priority for me.
Yeah, I go back and forth. I don't know where the pistol belt fits in the. It's a pistol belt, so I need a pistol and stuff for the pistol. I don't necessarily. So when I'm all armored up and shit, I can run a fast reload off my belt really fast because that's what I've always trained. But when I really stop and think about it, I'm like, why? Why am I going to my belt? This shit's right here.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's a very limited use case where you need to do like a speed reload right up front.
I don't think investing in a fucking belt is big right off the bat. If you buy just a pouch or something similar, buy
an Eagle
Kiwi
double mag pouch.
Yeah, or an
single
S-Tech
pistol.
Yeah, get an S-Tech Kiwi couple of pistol. Because one thing I've never understood running a whole, like, some dudes will have like 4 fucking pistol mags, and I'm like, what are you doing?
Right.
If your belt is set up to, hey, maybe sometimes I might not have a rifle. This belt is my belt. This is for the pistol. This is for if I'm kind of in cop mode or civvy pistol only mode. Sure, however many fucking pistol mags you need, but you can run you can get just a pouch and Safariland. And I know there's a lot of holsters. I don't fucking know, because Safariland, the whatever one I have, it's
the 63 something or another.
63, 490 million, whatever. I don't know, but the fucking injection molded Safariland
works great.
Glock, yeah, it's fine.
It's a gun bucket.
Works great. Gun bucket swallows my gun when I need to. Gun is fast when I need it. Like, that's the fucking holster. Unless I need to be concealed, But if I'm going overt, that's there. So that can be over any kind of belt. So you can spend $200, $300 on a fucking belt. I don't know why. I do it but I don't know why.
Repeatedly,
over and over and over.
So, yeah, I guess that's our take on pistol belts.
Yeah. Buy them, but hate yourself in the morning.
Yeah, it's very low on the priority list. I'd rather you have everything else and then get a pistol belt. We kind of touched on them a bit, but let's do some force multiplier stuff. So, nods.
Apache helicopters.
Yeah. Borrowed National Guard Apache helicopters. I guess we'll start with nods. I mean, you've got a great saying that I hijack all the time about nods. Like, 1 nod gives you the superpower, and then 2 nods is just a quality of life improvement.
Yeah.
So, there's literally nothing wrong with a Gen 3 PVS-14. It gives you the superpower to see in the fucking dark. So
that is a 95% solution.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You can see in the goddamn dark.
You can
shoot
see
your
the dark.
gun in the dark. You can nav in the dark.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I had a PVS-14 for years, and I mean, you just kind of get used to looking through a toilet paper roll, and that's your kind of field of vision.
Some of the high speed guys we train with, they prefer that.
Mm-hmm.
Quad tubes, nah. Dual tubes, nah. Just give me 1. They just prefer that for all these weird reasons of keeping a natural eye and all this shit. Like, that is totally doable. And honestly, having dual tubes, I wish I could go back and buy 2 PVS-14s and just bridge them. Now, when I bought my nods, that wasn't as big an option. There weren't as many options to bridge.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the way. Because you can pop one off, give it to a buddy. Because guess what? You with dual tubes is not as good as 2 of you with 1 tube.
Right. Yeah. And that's why I went with the bridge PVS-14 route when I had the money to do them.
Yeah.
Is I chose it because we stepped off on an FTX one time, and I go to check my nods before we step off, and it was dead. Like, it got dropped or something fucking happened. I had to send it back for repairs. But my buddy had bridge 14s, and he just popped one off and gave it to me.
Yeah.
Problem solved.
Yeah.
So
it was like Gandalf with the hobbits. We were like, oh, what is this magic?
Yeah. So for the regular everyday dude kind of context, I think 2 bridge 14s is the pinnacle.
Yep.
But
buy 1 when you can.
Mm-hmm.
Get the bridge that you need for 2, and then when you can, buy that second one.
Yeah. And I like the Code 4 Defense one. Kind of does the pano, so you got like a 58 degree field of view. That works really well. I've been super happy with it. The 14s, like, they don't have to be the highest FOM. They don't have to be the highest quality. Like, if they've got blems, that's fine. You can still see in the dark.
Yeah, one of our buddies bought his tube was $1,500, and it had just been wallered out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, bad.
Fucking stared at the sun for way too long.
Yeah, I think it was laser damage. Like, it just had this big fucking black beehole right in the middle of it. Guess what? Dude could still see in the dark, drive a truck in the dark, shoot his gun in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, I think the duels for regular guys, like, if the unit goes out, the whole unit goes out. 14s, they're 2 independent units. If one goes out, you still have another. You can break them off, give it to one. You can run 1 PVS-14 and 1 thermal. There's a lot of options. It is a little heavier, but, kind of take that for what it is. I think nods are pretty high on the importance list. I mean, I know they were for me.
Fuck yes.
Like,
I mean,
yeah, like we've talked about during this episode, like,
whatever
where we are, like, it's light for 6 hours a day and dark for the rest.
I don't care if you're at the fucking equator. Whatever your capabilities are, I bought a gun, I can do this, I can do that. Cool, sun goes down, you're done.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, bro, you're done.
Go hide in a cave and hope people don't find you.
Yeah, I got a light. A light, yes. That's not nothing. I mean, just having a bright-ass fucking light on your rifle, yeah. That solves some of the problem, but not all of it. You're not going to walk around using that light. You're not going to walk around. You're not going to nav. That's the thing. Like, a lot of people think nods, like, on TV, like, oh, I'm shooting with my PEC 15, my laser. No, it's mostly just walking around and not falling over on shit.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing where you're going. Like, driving a vehicle. Like, it gets you. There's a lot of shit you do under nods that has nothing to do with the gun.
Right. And we were kind of talking about this earlier. Like, with classes, like night vision classes. Like a lot of them will be like shooting under nods, and I'm like, it's pretty much the same as when the sun is up.
Yeah, I don't really need
like
help
the
with
difficult part is walking.
Can you teach me how to step with
Can you
knots?
teach me how to step with like a toilet paper on my like a toilet paper roll on my face, and this is all that I can see?
Which that's free. Go walk around in the woods with your friends.
Right. And figure out like focusing. Like we were out last weekend. So like I now have 2 14s. So one is, the focus is adjusted for far, the other is for near. So I can look down, and with one PVS 14, I can see the rocks and shit in front of me. I look up and I can see, into the distance. Yeah. So it's things like that, like actually getting out and using it, has nothing to do with taking a class.
Yeah, you just need time under nods.
And I guess with that, lasers. Like, in my opinion, do not go out and spend, $3,500 on a fucking mall. I don't think they're worth that. R.I.P. your mall.
How dare you?
Yeah. I don't think they're worth it.
No, I actually agree. I agree. I mean, I wouldn't say they're not worth it.
It's worth it.
You don't need
what you
it.
Paid for it.
You don't need it. Yeah,
I
bought it.
Not the same price as Nods though.
I bought them back when they were $2,500. Hell no.
They're $3,800, $4,000 now.
That. I mean, if you got the money and you want to do it, yeah, it is. Is there anything better? Fuck no.
Civilian wise.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can get the
Engol's probably better than a mall, wouldn't it be?
I doubt it.
No.
I don't fucking know. I doubt it. I mean, the full power mall is. The thing about the advantage of the mall is the illuminator.
The Kiji.
A beam is a beam. Yeah, the Kiji within the mall. Yeah. So you can get, like, my advice to new guy just starting out, get a fucking Holosun LS321. Because I have one of those, and guess what? It works so it is as good as my PEC. It's as good as the D-ball. It's the same fucking thing. Mm-hmm. It's the same basic illuminator performance. Mm-hmm. A beam is a beam. None of these restricted beams are any different. They're all pretty much the same. So a beam is a beam. The illuminator is the difference. The mall is the light of God. Like, that thing makes the sun come up in the middle of the night. But guess what? So does the Kiji. You can get the Kiji. You could buy a $200 Holosun beam, because who gives a fuck about the beam? The beam is just a beam. And a Kiji, and pretty much have Trailer Park Mall. Mm-hmm. Like,
so I did pretty much that. I took one of the Mod Light IR heads, which is pretty close to a Kiji. It's not a Kiji, but it was before the Kiji was out.
It's bright as fuck.
Yeah, it's before the Kiji was out. And then I got one of the Unity switches, the single button, so it fires the laser and the light simultaneously.
Yeah.
So when I'm out in the woods and I actually want that, I hit the button and it's pretty fucking close to them all.
Yeah. 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 The only advantage,
you're in for like $600
yeah.
versus $4,000.
The only advantage at that point that the mall would have over that is the selectability of different focuses of the beam and stuff. But I mean, you're talking about
that's like the 99% solution.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, your percentages of advantage. So, yeah, for a guy starting out who's like, well, all I have is a PVS 14, and I want to be able to run this gun at night, get an LS321, or not get anything. Because honestly, at this point, all of us got nods. Mm-hmm. So,
like, go to an airsoft match.
Yeah, fucking A.
Yeah, go to an airsoft match, and you'll be terrified by the number of dudes with nods. Dudes, I say dudes. Some of them are dudes. Some of them are fucking children.
Yeah.
With, like, Chinese nods that still see in the fucking dark. Your Ring camera sees in the fucking dark.
Yeah. Yeah, blasting a fucking... When you're firing that IR stuff, at this point, it's basically like white light.
Mm-hmm. And it's white light ND, unless you're intentionally doing it.
Yeah.
Like, I think gone are the days of just running around like the MS2... was it MS2000s? 200s.
The
2000s? Yeah, the MS2000s just on your helmet, just blinking all the fucking time for aircraft to see you.
First of all, you don't have friends in space.
Yeah.
None of your friends are up in the air, right? All your friends are down on the ground, and they don't need a fucking strobe to know where you're at. Unless you're on a range, there is use for them, but you don't get to use that. Second, if you go firing off beams and stuff, that's fine if you're invading a third world country for banks. But like, if your opponent is near peer or anywhere near,
or they have a Ring camera,
or if they have a fucking Ring camera, yeah, you look like a goddamn rave. You can't be doing that. I mean, I shouldn't say you can't do that. Like we like we've learned in like
can.
Op 4
There's
engagements,
less than ideal outcomes.
There's a time to use it when you're ghost mode and stealth, and they don't know where you're at, and you can do that. Fine, but once you do that, they know where you're at. So now you got to either move or use white light.
I don't think I used any of my IR.
I didn't either. It was white light and
so
passive.
So it was white light and passive.
Yeah.
So it was passive. They come in, you see them, you
shoot them as much as you can until they know where you're at.
And then they fire a white light at you. Then your nods up. You lift your head. You move. Go back under nods. Reposition and repeat the cycle.
Yeah.
So I think that the days of just all the IR blasting and everyone using IR are kind of fucking done.
It's kind of over. It's still important. It's an important capability.